Welcome back to Late Night Gaming's coverage of the Hobby Nights Planetary Qualifier. We are about to move into the draft component of the event here in the top eight. I'm Tower number nine, and here I am joined by Jeff Creasy from the Bothan Network. Jeff, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm super excited to see some draft. I love this format so much more than sealed. It's not even funny. It's just you get to see a lot more skill expression, a lot more decision making, and a lot less just kind of feels bads with just completely unlucky pulls and stuff. So I'm super pumped to be watching this draft go down. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. And in Star Wars Unlimited, you start out with the leader draft, so the players are going to separate their leaders from the three packs, and we should be getting into that shortly. There's different tactics you can use for the leader draft. One thing that can help with flexibility is trying to make sure that you get both a heroism and a villainy leader in your pool. Jeff, what's your strategy in terms of what leaders you want to choose in this format?
I think there's a lot of tactics that go into the leader draft. It's since they are double sided, it's open face leader draft. So you look around, you see all the leaders. What I always want to do is I see who's passing to me and what leaders they have, so I can get a decent estimate of what leaders I'm going to have potential access to. Then I also look to the other side because the people on your other side that you're passing your leaders to, they're the ones that are going to be passing you two packs worth of cards, and you pass them
Right.
one. So if I'm on a really good leader and I see everyone to my right has the same leader, I might not take the best leader in that case because I might say, I would rather have a functional deck where I'm not going to be where everyone isn't going to be taking the cards for my leader. Now, having said that, you see the Boba leader is very functional. There's multiple.
I believe it's Rando Mando from Late Night Gaming on the upper side of the board. Um, and he seems to have ended up with two copies of Hera Syndulla
Yeah,
and
really
one copy
interesting.
of Agent Callus.
Interesting choices there. The client is very playable both in terms of a leader and there are very good cards in those colors in this set. So Rando Mando taking a second Hera, saying, I don't want to give the person passing to me the option of playing Hera. I want to be the only Hera, and giving up something like the client. So that's another draft strategy that I kind of like, where if you're high on a leader, just take a second one, and then the person that's going to be passing to you for two packs doesn't have access to that leader.
For a second. I think actually he got handed the second Hera and chose to pick the first one, and I think
Yeah,
his
I I
first
think
pick
I
was
think
Callus
Callus
because it
was
was
his first pick.
it was
Then
like
he
Okay,
passed
Callus
the
Callus
was
and
the
second
two
first
one.
pick.
Hans.
And then so Callus was his first pick and he passed the two Hans. Then he picked a Hera and passed a client.
Yeah, and then he got past the second Hera, I believe.
Yes. But if he could have, it's so he got past the Hera last, but it's easy to see that, oh, I'm probably going to get this other, like either way, it, if he passes the Hera and takes the client, then he might not want to play the Hera as much if he gets it and on the last pick is what I'm saying.
I see, I see. Mhm.
Because you also see the leaders as they're getting picked. He looks over and sees, oh, the person that's passing to me has Hera and one other leader. So I could potentially, like, I might get a Hera here. And even if I don't get a Hera, you could be cutting the person that's now to your left for two packs, saying, oh, they're not going to be able to play Hera because I'm going to take all the good Hera cards because I just picked it. So it kind of goes both ways in that regard.
Dealing with some technical difficulties here.
We're working on getting the feed unfrozen as they're looking into the pack one pick ones here. So hold tight while we're attempting to fix that are really good. Um, a lot of it comes down to how many Canons and Zebs you can get, right? Like those are the two big ones that aren't rare and are incredibly powerful. Um, a lot of the rares are also powerful, right? Like your ghosts, your bases, your turrets. Like a lot of these rares are powerful, but you're going to see those a lot less often than you might see the Hera or Zeb. So a lot of it comes down to that.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on Hera as a leader? Because I think it's very polarizing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I think. I think her ability can
Hmm.
be very flexible. I actually think she may
All right,
even have
feeds back
some
up.
constructed play. especially with some of the new
Mhm.
specters and so on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also seems like with the splash bases being what everyone's running, you already have some of that locked in. So like,
So
do you need
mhm.
even more splash? I don't know. I think I don't know.
See,
I like her. I think I like her ability more in sealed than I do in draft because I feel like in draft you have more ability to go for the aspects you want. But I could be
mhm.
wrong, and she certainly does very well with those specters.
Yeah, so I think an easy comparison with Hera is something like Mon Mothma from the last set, and Mon Mothma was very good in sealed and not very good in draft. Because of what you were saying. You could more easily just draft the colors that you wanted. I think it's a little bit different with Hera because comparing it again to Secrets of Power Limited, there were a lot of officials that Mon Mothma wanted in every color, but there was no shortage of turn one plays. So you could kind of cherry pick the ones you wanted. You could make sure your sealed pool was functional, but it wasn't as powerful in draft. But with Hera, you can make sure that the powerful threes, fours, and fives you're able to potentially play for free. And the fact that you have the out of aspect base means that your deck isn't stone cold dead if people start trading. So it's kind of like the backup plan to say, okay, I also have this out of aspect base if I need it, but the goal is to get Hera online and play your guys. So I think that the out of aspect base really makes her not dead in the water.
Yeah.
And then Callus to me is the really hard one to evaluate for similar reasons, where instead of where everything might cost one more. So that's the one that's been harder for me to evaluate on if I like it or not. Is Zeb for 6 still good in a villain deck? Yeah, I think so. I think it's still very, very worth it. Um, But either way, it's an interesting strategy for Rando Mando here, where all three of his leader can just take it. It can be trickier if it's villain because you can't play that out of for free with Hera, but he can just say any good hero card that he likes, he can just take.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting spot to be in. Yeah,
Yeah.
we see
Let's
him
see.
immediately just take the red green card there, saying maybe it'll be in my colors, but it's a good card when I can play it on curve. Yeah, he's just
Yeah.
immediately taking the multicolored cards and putting them to the front of the pack, which is really interesting.
Multicolor cards can be strong.
They can be. I saw him just take the hammerhead there. I'm not as high on that card specifically. It's still a 6/6 space unit, which is totally reasonable. But also, if he's in, he's taken 3 red green cards in a row, so he may be just looking at Hera red, saying these cards are in my colors anyway. And then once I have 2, I can splash the heroic cards.
Yeah. Are you what do you think about staying flexible versus committing early on?
In most sets, I think you have to commit early on. Without the splash base, I think you have to commit early on. You only get 14 cards per pack. So 42 cards total, and you're using 30 of them. So there's not that many non-used cards. So you can't really afford to switch strategies. But with the splash base, it's been shown to be acceptable to splash 5 to even 6 or 7 cards,
How
so
many
you can
cards?
kind of switch what your splash color versus your main color is. It can get a little dicey the later you go, but in this format specifically, it's easier to say, "Oh, I don't have a yellow leader, but I'm going to take this yellow 2 drop. Maybe it's my splash, maybe it's not."
Hmm.
Whereas previously, I wouldn't want to commit that early to my secondary color and take potentially a 2 drop that would be out of aspect.
Yeah, there's also more ability to just like if you see some card that's a bomb, just grab it and it's like,
Hmm.
okay, you know,
Yeah.
if all else fails, this can be with my splash base.
Yeah, exactly. The splash base means that you can take the good cards without committing early. So it makes it a lot harder to read the draft format, to read the signals of what colors people are playing. But it makes it really interesting in the deck building phase to have a larger number of people that all have playable decks, and you don't just say, "Oh man, I thought they were on this and I was wrong, and I didn't get any cards I could use."
Yeah.
Getting into pack 2, we're seeing potentially a blade wing getting looked at on the bottom of the screen, the droid missile turret up top. Some interesting options here. I think Hera's pretty locked into green red based on all the picks that we saw. So the turret would be splash base.
Or Hera ability, depending on when you end up playing it.
That's
Yeah, I think
really
that was the Beach
interesting.
Patrol AT-ACT there.
So that card is good, but I find that this format has so much top end. I don't need to take it very highly, and a lot of games you don't get that late anyway. Even in sealed, we saw a lot of games ending around the leader deploy mark, maybe 6 resources, maybe 7, but you don't often see it get to the very late stage. And the main way to play those is with credit generation, which is not red green heroes strong suit.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I do think in limited formats, some of the cards that are just like big brawler type units, like just big numbers
Hmm.
cards, can be more desirable than they are in constructed
Yeah.
play. But I think I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's a card that's quite expensive and doesn't do anything when you first play it, which is not historically a spot that's really good in my opinion.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, I
honestly,
think with this
almost
form, oh, that's a good card. Sorry, go ahead.
which one are you hyped about there?
The Rando Mando got the 4/5 just heroic, the ambush, the ground ambusher. I
Oh
really
yeah,
like that
the
card. It just goes in a lot of decks, and the stat line is very. There's a lot of 4/4s in this format, so being a 4/5 ambusher is very
that
relevant.
was that the circuit challenger, the 4/5 ambush pod
Yes, yes,
racer
the
thing?
Circuit Challenger. Hmm.
Yeah. That's a yeah, that is a good card.
Ooh,
Ooh, it
there's
looks
an
like an
Ezra. Now,
Ezra
now we're
Bridger
seeing.
there.
Yeah, now we're seeing Hera come to light. Where we don't think that's going to be his colors, but if his 2 and 3 are still alive, it doesn't matter. You don't have to use your splash base.
Right.
And you just get even if you don't heal anything or heal much, just a 4/5 with raid with those stats is very good.
It's a nice stat line,
Hmm.
and he is potentially poised to get the bonus healing there.
Yeah.
For sort of obvious thematic reasons, those specters are often well suited for a Hera deck. Ooh, look at that. He's looking at a
Hmm.
copy of Ray there.
So
It's interesting
this
though.
is what.
Ray is kind of another just like big numbers card in this situation.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was saying about first picking something like the AT Holler. There, you're gonna see the rares and legendaries that are big as well. Like he passed it there, so he first picked the 8 drop common large thing, but then passed the Ray legendary unit there. Like you're going to get your big units. You're going to see some of the 9 cost 10/10, some of the haulers, some large some large rare or legendary unit is going to get passed around. So I don't think you need to take those things very early.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Ray is that her ability is probably is not a ton of removal in this format.
Yeah, she can't be lost or forgotten.
Yeah, true
But
that.
yeah, that's about it. Other than that, you're not. You're she's just a big unit with big stats.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think it's not I think Ray is not a bad card. I would probably rather have
Yeah,
Ray
same.
than that Beach Patrol Walker.
I
But
agree, but I
yeah,
don't want both necessarily, especially this
right.
early, where you're probably going to get something like it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up with another beach patroller or one of the mercenary ships that he picks up in the last 4 cards of the pack or so.
Mm.
Ooh, is that a ghost? No, that's not the ghost. Which card is that?
Phantom, I believe.
He did just pick a ghost
Yeah,
though.
Phantom. Ghost is very good. Ghost is another really nice Hera payoff. I was talking about with draft, you can see more of the rare specters, and Ghost is right up there with one of the really good ones. Getting an XP and a shield on 2 units is so nice.
That interrogation droid getting picked on the bottom there. That's one that's
Yeah,
quite a high power level, but requires some specific aspects.
yeah. So it makes me think that maybe we're in client red on the bottom of our screen here. I haven't seen all the picks. It's hard to focus on both. But yeah,
Could also just be
interrogation
a
droid
splash based selection. That droid is really
could
nasty.
be. Yeah, I mean, you can just play it on turn 2. The discarding cards is so brutal in this format. So
And
yeah,
unlike some
I
of those
like
other cards that kind of punish early game plays,
it. Hmm.
if you draw the interrogation droid late, you can still use it as an exhaust effect that also develops a unit. Even if you don't get the
Yeah,
discard, you can exhaust someone's leader with that thing.
yeah, exactly. Like it has value early and late. You don't usually want to play it on turn in a lot of cases.
Now we're about to, I believe, move to our final pack.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Leppy look out there.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
I
strong
also
opening play, but not in the ideal colors based on what we were seeing earlier, and not sure it's a splash-based target necessarily.
Yeah, I did see the 6 cost event, I believe, in Rando Mando's pile that triggers all Spectre ETBs. I don't think that card is very playable, but it's pretty funny.
I think that's one of those ones where the theoretical power level is very, very high in like the ideal
Hmm.
case, but it's
Yeah.
just like it's too clunky. I think it's a bit win more. If you have all your specters out, you're probably in a good spot
Yeah.
anyway. I don't know. It's not 6 seems very expensive for that effect.
I agree. And there was actually a really interesting decision point in the bottom of our screen just now, too. It was between the red yellow 4-2 ambush overwhelm unit or a mastery. We saw him take the mastery. I think he's red yellow villain.
Yeah.
Because that's when you might not have Hera. You usually won't have Hera ability online on turn 2, but you usually don't want to play Sabine on turn 2. You want to wait. They flip their leader, they mastery, and you say, okay, I'm going to kill the mastery and then ambush into here.
An Angel's X-Wing up top.
Hmm.
Considering either that. What's the other one there? I think that's a
There was the
target tagger.
3/3 bounty hunter, yeah, the target tagger,
Yeah, so
and goes with the turn 1 play, which I like. You already have your 3 pluses being a lot of heroism and hero units. You just need turn 1 plays, even if they're not great.
yeah, and I actually kind of like Cavern Angel's X-Wing in more
Hmm.
aggro-oriented decks because, like,
Yeah.
even in Constructed, I found myself playing it sometimes because we've lost so much of the normal reach cards with rotation, and
Hmm.
as a result, having that when defeated effect that damages the opponent's base directly can be a
Yeah.
good way to get some close to guaranteed damage out.
Yeah. Also, this set is very ground centric, especially in the early to mid game. So if you want to keep Hera's ability on, playing a couple of early space units really helps with that, so that you can then play your powerful ground units that would otherwise be out of aspect. Use
Hmm,
those to fight for control on the ground while you're chipping in damage in space.
interesting point. That salvaged blaster is
Hmm.
unfortunately, I think, very close to being a good card, but is not quite
Yeah,
there. I
I
really think it
totally
should have a
agree.
cost of 1, and if it had a cost of 1,
Mhm.
Sebulba would be much more viable than he is now.
Yeah, or if it was just +2/+1 instead of +2/+0, is I think it's one
Yeah.
stat away from being playable or one cost away, like you were saying. I think either one would make it very playable.
We did see a collateral damage selected on the lower side there. That is
Oh
a
yeah.
honestly a pretty good card. You know, not you have that ability to do
Hmm.
some reach damage to the opponent's base with it, but it can also be, you know, it's not the world's strongest removal, but it is some removal. And it looked like up top there was one of those salvage blasters was almost selected, but he ended up deciding that he would rather have the Onaka Gang Bandits, another kind of end game sort of
Hmm.
unit.
Yeah, another 7 drop, which is interesting.
They do hit really hard though. A
They
6/7 with
do.
raid 3, swinging for 9. That's actually
Hmm.
very scary.
It's a good leader killer, but it's best utilized when you can get a credit or two to get it out early, because you want to be able to fight your opponent's leader before they kill you with their leader. It is a solid card though, for sure.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Oh wow. Interesting signal that the 2/2 shielded yellow villain spaceship for 2
Especially in
definitely.
limited where there's so much fight for the board, our units crash into each other. Missing a play can be a real setback.
Yeah, and yeah, missing a play can be bad, and there's just so few good turn 1 plays in this set that are commons. Um I'm really surprised if the bottom player is on client like I had thought, that they didn't take that. I'm curious what they took with about 5 or so cards left in the pack. I didn't see for sure what they took with that pick instead. And now we're into the deck building phase.
Looking
So
at
now
those
now we
early
get to
game
see how it
picks.
all played out.
Yeah.
hmm Yeah, and we do see a lot of two drops already. So maybe he just thought he was comfortable there already and got a couple of those 4-3 space units. I was talking about how there aren't that many space units. That's one of the better early game ones to have. There's 2 2s and 2 3s, so getting a 3 cost 4-3 in space is very viable.
Yeah. I think that's the prototype tie advanced. It's just a 3 cost 4-3, but
Yep.
that's
hmm
like, that's a pretty good stat line when your opponent might be pretty light in space. In
Yeah.
general, I think space units that have a high power, or have maybe they have a low power, but they have raid, like the Green Squadron A-Wing back in the day
hmm
or whatever. I think those can
Yes.
be pretty scary in limited.
Absolutely. It just because it's just they're just harder to answer in general. There aren't any like there's a lot of ground ambushers even at common rarity, but there aren't a lot of space ambushers. There's the 2-3 ambusher for 2, but that doesn't kill most of in any of these mid-range ships that we're talking about, like the 4-3. So you get a lot more guaranteed damage or make them spend other cards from their hand. Just really good at helping win the race.
Yeah. I think there's also some interesting stuff. I remember one thing that comes up sometimes in limited, not so often, but you can have more than 3 copies of a card in limited if you pulled
hmm
that many or drafted that many. I remember a
Yeah.
Spark of Rebellion draft where I think I had 4 or 5 copies of Green Squadron A-Wing, and I believe I went undefeated that draft, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. I've had that happen in secrets before people realized that Leia and one drops were really good, like very early in the set, where I think I
Mm.
had 4 of the 1 cost yellow A wings in a Leia deck, and I just never lost. It was so
Yeah,
good.
that's nasty.
Yeah, we
It's
see
funny too
here,
because there are
Randall.
some cards, if you have those 1 costs in particular, playing 2 1 costs on turn one can be a really scary start sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In constructed, I remember when I was playing Cunning Sabine, double cartel turncoat was a start that
Oh
opponents
yeah,
would not like to see.
absolutely. I
Let's
want
see.
Rando to start fanning out his multicolored cards. Come on, let's see. I want to see the Hera payoffs. We see a lot of red green here.
Yep.
I want to see what all he got in that hero pile. We see a couple of the blue ships, which are good to just play without aspect penalty as well. So he's got a
Yeah,
decent
though
space
again,
presence.
quite expensive. I think that those are both copies of Phoenix Squadron fighters, I believe,
hmm
which another 8 cost, although it can get discounted based on friendly units being damaged. It does seem like this
Yeah,
Hera deck
you
has
hope
a
you
lot of
never
more
pay 8 for that.
expensive cards.
hmm So we see the Ezra and the Ghost and a K2SO. So
Yeah.
3 payoffs for Hera. Another problem with Hera is a lot of the cards that you want to play are 2 aspect but not hero, so you don't get to play them for free. So
Yeah, so like that copy of Hana, for instance, would require the splash
mhm,
base to be used.
exactly.
I think the dream there one other thing about Hera is that I think the dream plays for her, which are things like Kanan or Zeb.
Mhm.
They are also quite accessible to other decks using those splash
Yes.
bases. So it's not like, in
Mhm.
Spark of Rebellion, Tarkin with his Imperial synergy had cards that were good for him and bad for other decks. So a good example would be Tai
Yeah.
LN Fighter, which was actually
Mhm.
very good for Tarkin and not really much of anything for others.
Yeah, not contested. Mhm.
Yeah.
I
The problem with
yeah,
Hera is that some of the cards that you most want are contested cards.
absolutely.
And I think in a set without the splash bases, not only would her ability drawing
Really
your
good
leader is
point.
nice too.
It is. I think a lot of that can go back to when we were talking about the leader draft specifically. If you look and you see that the people passing to you only have villainy leaders, then you maybe get those specters a little bit more. Whereas even if you see your Hera, you say, "Oh, well, I'm still surrounded by heroism leaders, so other people are just going to use their splash bases and take the Zebs and Canans."
Right.
That could be another factor in how highly do I even draft this Hera.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very good point.
but this is also looking like a pretty nice, looks like client blue deck. Could also be or
Splash base options included there as well. We could see if we are indeed blue-red on the main colors, that interrogation droid, for instance, off the splash base.
yeah.
And I
And
do
I
think the
do
splash bases are really interesting for how they affect the limited
Mhm.
dynamics in this set. And,
Oh,
and I mean,
absolutely.
constructed too, but especially limited.
hmm Yeah, I totally agree. Um, they definitely make the. I was worried for the set mechanic specifically when I see all these multicolored cards, but the more I played, I realized the splash bases help so much and help smooth everything out, both for sealed and draft. I like that a lot. Um, Now with Aura specifically, it's really tough having a 7 deploy leader. It's a pretty high bar in my opinion. Um, the stats aren't great on Aura either. Like I don't know. I feel like you're kind of sacrificing a little bit on your leader to get the colors that you want, which sometimes you just have to do in draft, but it always feels kind of bad if that versus if maybe he could have worked his way into either a client red or client blue.
Mm. Yeah. There's also an aspect of like personal evaluations and what leaders you especially like or don't like.
That's very
Sometimes
true.
there might be something where it's like, in principle, I see this is good, but this is not a style that I like to play, that might push you towards
Mhm.
one or another leader in your pool.
I think also the valuations of leaders in this set are varying all over the place. You watch any two videos back to back, and you'll see very different answers for what people think are the best leaders. Sometimes 7 deploy leaders can get there. I actually think Vader's not bad, even though a lot of people have him rated very poorly because he's a 7 deploy. But that's because he has a lot of stats to make up for it when he deploys, and you have to build your deck specifically to try to make it to 7.
He also has a very, very high impact ability in the right situation.
Absolutely. Especially with the cards like That's a Rock, you just, we both played 3/2s on turn one. Well, I'm also just going to kill yours for free,
Yeah, that's a
by
very
discarding
favorable
a card.
situation to be in.
Yeah. I mean, Aura can help clean up trades for sure. It turned maybe it's a good answer to something like a Vel deck where they're always trying to stay 1 HP ahead, and you're able
Mm.
to get that last damage in. We'll have to see how it plays out. In general, I'm not very high on that leader, but I could very well be wrong because, like I said, leader evaluations are all over the place for this set, and it's not one that I've played with much to kind of verify my hypothesis.
There are also specific situations where Aura becomes a lot better. Like if your opponent, if
Yep.
your opponent's leading off with that Leppy Lookout, or if that was what they would normally plan to do,
Yeah.
Aura is going to destroy that game plan. Or, if the opponent plays
Yeah.
that
There are a lot of good
interrogation
one
droid,
HP
yeah, they get
units.
the exhaust, but you just
hmm
kill their unit for free. So that's.
Yeah. It does just turn off a lot of cards, which is a very nice place to be in. A lot of good cards too. It's not like people are saying, "Oh no, my only turn one plays in my pool are Leppy Lookout." Like that's a good card unless you're playing against Aura.
Yeah, I mean, normally if I have Leppy Lookout, I'm like, this is probably one of the better turn one plays in this set.
hmm
Um, I don't think we're necessarily dealing with a set that's just like full of one cost or one HP targets, but there are a fair few, and you also
hmm
have the ability to use it in those situations, like you mentioned, where you're like off by one just from normal combat damage or whatever.
hmm
Looks like we're seeing single reactor ignition as a big wipe. We do have collateral damage there, and it looks like we have a copy of incapacitate as well. So we do have at least some
hmm
removal here.
I like the look of the pool a lot. There's good or 2 and 3 drop units. You've got a mastery in there. I really like the dogged pursuers as kind of a transition to the late game, especially with something like Aura, where you can use that to help clean up what's on the board before your leader flips. So there's some really cool cards there. I'm worried a little bit about the 4 drop slot. And if maybe he'll get too far behind then at that point to transition into the late game. But overall, I think that's a pretty solid draft.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these decks perform. And I
Hmm.
think up top, it looks like the deck is actually being sleeved up.
Yeah, I think it was pretty straightforward to build build the Hera deck. Um, it's kind of unfortunate that there's only, I think, 3 cards in the pool you can use your leader on, but you still have a decent leader body, and those are 3 good cards. Like they're 3 cards that you want, so you can use your base potentially on turn one and still have options to play your good specters later in the
Yeah,
game
and
without paying you.
being a 3/6 restore one isn't like
Hmm.
the best leader stats ever, but it's not by any means like embarrassing.
Respectable. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
respectable.
I mean, restore is it's kind of funny too because like there are other in some other card games healing your base is just like infamously not like very worthwhile. So
Hmm.
like in Magic,
Yeah,
healing is normally considered really bad. And
yeah.
in this game, restore is really very solid.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think comparing it to Magic, it's a little bit more like having life link than it is just straight life gain. And I think that it's more useful in this game even than it is in some other games because of the way the action economy works. The fact that you get in damage and heal yourself at the same time, you get in all these situations where like, okay, I take myself out of check and put you in check in the same action, and now you have to do something, or like I'm undoing your last action with mine and also progressing my plan. So the action economy of restore being an on attack is also very helpful, I think.
Yeah. The one big downside of restore, which is that it is not very effective against control decks, is also
Mhm.
not really a huge thing in limited where people are not really putting together control decks.
Yeah, definitely. You're not going to have a unitless deck that's trying to mill you out very often in limited. At least not a successful one.
Yeah. The I think in general limited tends to be very units on the board fighting each other. And
Hmm.
in fact, I'm not sure this game has ever had a limited format in any set that has not been units on the board fighting each other.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, all of the if you look at the cards designed to mill or things like that, they're all rare or legendary, and they're not going to come up often in limited. And even then, they usually require multiples and synergies to make work. It's a lot different in other games where mill can be a little bit more of a viable strategy in limited.
I think I did once win a game of Spark of Rebellion limited because it was actually really funny. I had Kanan Jarrus out, and he mills on attack for each
Oh yeah.
specter you have. And I actually had
Hmm.
like 2 or 3 specters and didn't even realize it. And he got to swing like
Yeah.
2 or 3 times, and my opponent was really low on cards and actually scooped it up.
Nice. Yeah.
I
Set
do
one
also.
is the
Oh,
most
go ahead.
viable
I'm sorry.
place for that to happen. I was just saying set one is the most viable place for that, like you were saying with the Kanan mill,
Yeah.
and Chopper was in the same set. And then you could also potentially, if you got lucky, get something like a Vigilance in your pool, because 6 is a lot for sure.
Yeah, and you'd also have I think one that was interesting is that in Spark of Rebellion Limited, people were more likely to run out of cards than in other formats, not because Mill was really
Mhm.
good, but because Smuggle essentially took an extra card from your deck when you used it. And in Spark, I actually started building decks above the minimum on purpose to if I had a
Mhm.
bunch of Smuggle in there to try and mitigate this
Yeah.
potential factor.
Yeah, that's totally viable. And even if it's after game 1, you can just put some extra cards in your deck from your sideboard.
Yeah, yeah. So Shadows, I think I said Spark earlier, but Shadows of the Galaxy with Smuggle was
Oh, yeah, yeah.
honestly a
Mhm.
really good limited environment, I think.
Yeah, that one was pretty fun. I think a lot of the limited environments are determined by if there's one leader that's just head and shoulders above the others. I'm looking at Anakin Skywalker leader from, I
Yeah.
believe, Twilight, looking at Leia from the most recent set. And a lot of it comes down to, did you get, especially in sport cards to use them? That always feels bad. I feel like we don't have that with this set. There's a lot of good leader diversity and a lot of good playable cards, so it really makes
Yeah.
me like this limited format a lot.
And I also think Leia in Secrets of Power was not as bad as Anakin in Twilight. Anakin in Twilight was crazy.
Oh, Anakin was so bad in Twilight. Yeah, I definitely agree. Anakin in Twilight was just basically a free win button. It was so brutal to play against.
Spark of Rebellion had some leaders that were really good, but it actually had
Hmm.
yeah, Boba Fett just for the like leader stats and sometimes the resource value.
Hmm.
Tarkin was really good in draft, but not as much
Yeah,
in
you had to get
sealed.
really lucky and sealed. Hmm.
Tarkin also benefited from Overwhelming Barrage being uncommon and in his aspects, which was
Hmm.
itself kind of a problem
Yeah.
card in that set.
Oh yeah, I'd play that card for 7, and I played it in my green hero drafts all the time.
Oh yeah. It was, I think Overwhelming Barrage in Premiere was a bit overpowered. I'm not like mad
Hmm.
that they never banned it or whatever. I think it was like
Yeah,
probably too good, but not like a huge problem. But in limited, it was a
yeah.
huge problem.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It was the big. I mean, we talk about how these little +1/+1s make one leader insanely overpowered and limited, and overwhelming broads just gets to say, well, all of these units that you've had survive with 1 or 2 health are just all gone now.
I think one of the designers, I don't remember for sure, but I think there was maybe some interview where they said, in retrospect, that card should have been rare or legendary.
Hmm.
Which
Yeah,
is
and
an
I
interesting
think
form
this.
of balance because like rarity is basically not a real balance factor for constructed more or less, but in limited
Mhm.
it's very real.
To me, that's the real way you can tell if sets were designed for limited or not. Is their rarity? It's like you were saying. It's a trading card game. We expect a lot of rares and legendaries. We just have to buy them or open a lot of packs. But it's really for the limited balancing, the difference between common and uncommon, uncommon and rare. Those designations matter a lot for both sealed and draft.
Yeah. I think one other area where it can be helpful too is you know, trying to put some of the cards that are very strong but also relatively niche into the higher rarities.
Hmm.
Like some of the things that are really good for specific archetypes only, where it would still
Hmm.
be disappointing to pull them in a draft environment.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that's a really good point as well. Cards that you need in the constructed pool, but are just kind of useless and limited. It goes
Could be
back to
interesting too.
multiple packs where I saw rare bases going by, and it just always feels bad when you're looking at limited. And you're like, oh, it's a rare base. If it's
There,
not Energy Conversion Lab, I don't want it in draft.
Spark of Rebellion had Energy Conversion Lab and Tarkin Town, which were both really good.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
then most other rare bases have not been great limited plays.
yeah,
Even ones that have been
yeah,
good in constructed. Like, do people want to play Data Vault in limited? No, you have to play a bunch more bad cards.
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
I wonder if the one that's like the reverse Data Vault is good in limited.
Thermal Oscillator. A lot more games come down to decking. And I'm
Yeah,
trying to remember that specific because I actually played it a little bit in that format and played around with it. It's not great. Because basically you're just giving up HP to say a few of my worst cards don't make it in,
right.
but it's usually not worth the cost.
It's
And
not enough of a card quality increase to be worth losing some HP.
exactly.
Yeah, and given that it does mean you have a higher risk of milling, I guess that's a factor as well.
Hmm.
I like the idea of rare bases, but I do think that they have often been of limited relevance to the limited environment.
Hmm.
Well, I believe we have concluded our draft component now, and we will be moving on to that first round shortly. It should be interesting to see how that goes. I always like having the opportunity to, when you can do it on a stream like this, seeing that draft and then seeing how the drafted decks end up playing in the event itself, that can be a lot of fun.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Um, it's always really cool to see how it plays out. You can theorize, but having to see what happens is being able to see that is great as well.
What do you who's your favorite to win? What leader?
I don't know all the leaders that got opened.
Fair.
Um, I definitely think that the drafts that we got to see were drafts of two of the leaders that most people have rated a little bit lower. Um, I'm interested how many Vels we have at the table, and if anybody got a really good curve out Boba deck with the early cost bounty hunters. Harder to
Mm.
get in sealed, can be easier to get in draft if there's not as many Bobas around. But also sometimes you get three Bobas next to each other and they just all take each other's cards and then end up with three decks that can't really utilize their leader very well.
Yeah, that was definitely a thing that could happen more so in some other games, but it could happen
Mhm.
here too. I remember so in have you ever played Flesh and Blood TCG?
Yes.
In
Yeah,
Flesh
played
and
it when it
Blood,
first
as
came
you
out.
know, you get your choice of any leader or any hero or whatever in that
Mhm.
game. There isn't like
Yeah.
a hero draft. And you might think, well, isn't that like really dumb because some of them might be better than others and everyone would just play that? And in limited, it actually is pretty bad. But
Yeah.
in draft it's different because in draft
Mhm.
you would sometimes get these sets where it was like, well, this leader is well known to be the best in this set, but if that means,
Mhm.
there's like four or five people drafting that and I can be the one or two people
Yeah.
drafting something else, I can have a better deck. And that was actually pretty cool. So like you saw that, for instance,
Yeah, it's
which set
self-balancing
was that?
basically.
I think it was Tales of Aria, where
Mhm.
Briar was like far and away the best in sealed play. But in draft, if you were drafting with experienced people and there were a bunch of people competing for Briar, maybe you wanted to go for something else instead. Maybe you were going to be the one Lexi
Yeah.
player that has a way higher power level on your cards.
Yeah, it's a big high risk, high reward kind of scenario, right? Where maybe you're the only person that goes for the good leader because everyone knows that, but maybe six people go for it and you have a non-functional deck.
Right. And that was also something where you had to kind of read how experienced you thought people were and what their
Mhm.
calls were meta wise.
Yeah, so it's
Um,
a lot more poker than a lot more poker thrown in at that point as well.
yeah, like if you were like, oh, I'm going to go to a Tales of Aria draft and these people don't know anything about the set, it's like, yeah, force Briar, whatever, dude. I don't know if these
Mhm.
guys even know that she's the best. But if you're
Yeah.
if you're looking at a bunch of people who are all thinking, okay, Briar is the best, but like, do
It feels like, the bell curve meme where the bottom and top ends of the bell curve are the same thing and the middle is the
yeah,
different
yeah.
one. Where it's like, I know nothing except this leader is good. Draft this leader, and then in the middle, this leader's good. Never draft it because everyone else will. And then at the end, you outplay everyone. You say no one's going to draft it because everyone knows it's too good, so I'm going to draft it again. And you
Yeah.
have to figure out where on the curve your table is.
Yeah, it creates an interesting sort of, like you were saying, like you gotta have the reads. There's kind of a poker angle.
Hmm. Yeah, you get a little bit of that in Swoo, but since the leaders are all face up, it's more for the leader draft. For last set, we did a lot of test drafts as the bot and team, both for the regionals and just preparing for limited PQs and stuff. It was actually really interesting when we would talk across the table and we just say, all right, how many Leias were opened up? And sometimes we decided it was best to pass the Leia and not take it because we saw how many there were that were going to pass to us. We say, I can either have a really good deck in another color or a really bad Leia deck unless I can really quickly identify a secondary color that my Leia is going to be in. um, it's kind of the same thing. It's just the more the cards are face up on the table in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There's kind of that yeah, do you want to be the absolute, do you want to have the absolute best deck of the aspects that are maybe a little weaker, or do you want to have be
Hmm.
competing for Although I don't know, I think that like there is often not a clear consensus as to what aspects are good.
Oh, definitely. And that's another thing that really changes every set. Um, I think further on in the set, it gets figured out a little bit more where people start to realize, oh, actually, I like these colors better than those colors. And sometimes that's very different in draft versus sealed. A lot of that comes down to how good are the uncommons because you'll see more uncommons, and also if other people think the color is popular or not. Are more people going to draft it, or is it a little bit more open and I just get all the good cards?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, there are some fun dynamics that you get in draft play. You know, you were mentioning earlier that you prefer draft to sealed. I think sealed does have some things going for it. I think it makes a really good kind of explore the set type experience. I think it's like very,
Hmm.
very, very reasonable for them to have sealed as the pre-release format, for instance. But I do really like some of those
Yeah.
dynamics that you get in draft play with competing for different cards, resources, etc.
Yeah, I'm very happy that Galactics is going to be draft and not sealed. It's really hard to do at a large scale, which is why sectors and regionals start with so much sealed. But I'm really happy that the ultimate test of skill in our game, which is the Galactic Championships, is going to be a combination of draft and Premier. I think that's a really good decision made by
Yeah, it should be
FFG
a
to
very
really make
exciting.
the good players rise to the top.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very exciting galactic championship with these formats in play.
Hmm. Definitely.
All right, we should have our first round underway soon. And here we are getting set up. It looks like Hera Syndulla is going to be taking on Boba Fett.
All
All
right.
right.
Here we are with the top 8 coming in hot. So we've got this should be Richard from the Bothan Network against Rando Mando. So we saw Rando Mando draft this Hera Red deck. We did not see Richard. He ended up with a Boba Red. And it's one of the ones that I was talking about. I really like this leader if you can get the density of low cost bounty hunters. And so we'll have to see if he was able to find the right cards to make the leader work.
Yeah, this should be an interesting situation. We were discussing this a bit earlier on, but trait synergy leaders often weaker in sealed, better in draft. You're
Hmm.
unlikely to pull all the bounty hunters you need for Boba in sealed, but if you're going for some of those cards that other people might not be, you know, this could be an opportunity to make some credits.
Yeah, and it's interesting too with Hera. You usually want to um, keep units on the board to turn on the Hera ability, and with Boba, you want to trade to get your credits to go to your top end. So Richard is definitely incentivized to turn off this Hera leader even more with Boba. Um, so we'll see how that goes. We also saw Rando Mando draft a decent amount of space units. And since FFG has decided that no space units can be bounty hunters, Boba just doesn't work at all in space.
Yeah, that's true. Even cards like Fett's Fire Spray, Houndstooth, these ships that are associated with the bounty hunters lore-wise do not have the bounty hunter trait. They'll just have the underworld trait.
Yeah, ships can be Jedi, but they can't be bounty hunters. Come on, FFG, get it together. Both players
All
taking a
right.
mulligan here.
Yeah, I think that
Hopefully, we'll
credit
get
token on the
some two
side not
drops.
in play. Game has not started yet. Just over off to the
Yeah.
side there.
Hmm.
Should be interesting to see how things go as we move into this first round of top 8.
Um, both players trying to decide who should start with 5 damage on their base.
The answer is neither of them. They're shuffling it on up. They're looking at the cards. Boba Fett, probably. Where would you rank Boba Fett power level wise for this set, leader wise?
I I think he's fairly high. Um, because he also makes the decisions a lot easier, which is something that I think shouldn't necessarily be overlooked.
Mm.
It's pretty easy to see how many bounty hunters do I have, how often can I trigger him, versus something like Hera, where you say, "Oh, I got Hera, I can draft all these specters," and then at the end you realize you got 3 units that you can use it with. Boba Fett, you're going to see a lot of bounty hunters. So it's just your game plan is a little bit more straightforward versus something like a Tobias or a Saw or some of these other leaders that may have a high power level, but only if you make the correct sequencing and do everything in the right order.
Yeah, you don't Boba Fett is, you want to put bounty hunter cards in your deck, and then you want to play efficiently and maybe
And we see here, we talked a lot about how a lot of the turn one play quality isn't the best. And here we see a 2/2 on a turn one play, but it can't just get killed by the other turn one play because it's a 1/4. So really a wet noodle fight here on turn one.
Yep.
But I think it's going to ramp up pretty quickly with either 3PO XP or the card draw that we already saw getting
And
an
it is
underworld
worth
card.
noting that Syndicate Spice Runner, not a bounty hunter. I believe it is underworld only. So
Correct.
Boba's ability not in effect here unless we see some ambush. Oh, but there's an ambush on the other side of the board. Sabine Wren off of the splash base. 3/3 ambush. Great option to clear that 2/2. And she can then be buffed with C3PO's attack.
Hmm.
0 0
Here is a
0 on the
triple
field.
zero. Hmm.
Pretty good
And that
card.
one's looking nice. No red cards in the discard to
I
get.
think
Mhm.
overall, you're probably not too unhappy if you're Richard to have played zeros here, but like you said, a lot more awkward with that Sabine effectively being a 4/2 right now, thanks to the C3PO experience.
Mhm. Richard does have experience. I would imagine you just have to kill the C3PO before everything gets out of hand.
Yeah, it's tough. If you trade with Sabine, it prevents a lot more incoming damage right now, but then like what
Mhm.
happens when the opponent plays another card that works with C3PO and then swings again?
Yeah, exactly. And he does take out the C3PO. Because now it also makes the trade for Mando a little less appealing. I think what you want here, if you're Richard, is you want this Sabine to swing into base, and then you play a bounty hunter that's threatening the Sabine, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if Mando doesn't attack yet with his Sabine or trades in. But we'll see what he does.
We do have an Arvel Skeen in hand, which might mean that Rando Mando is more inclined to allow a potential bounty hunter credit play, knowing that he has a counter.
Mhm. Very valid. Like he could kind of be baiting the credit out to take out,
Hey,
but Richard's just going to
there's
safe.
that prototype tie advanced 4/3 in space. We were
Hmm.
talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Ooh, Haymaker there. That could be a kill on
Yeah.
zeros and a buff for Sabine, and it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen.
So Sabine one one power away from threatening the Boba himself, but
Yeah, yeah,
still looking advantageous for Boba into Sabine right now on the flip. Um,
that is true.
it's getting much scarier.
We do have a copy of Ezra Bridger in hand, which could be used to heal
Yeah.
Sabine and put Boba in a tougher spot, though it still wouldn't be he wouldn't be pinned by that. It would still only be 5 power from, the Sabine, but Sabine would no longer be able to be killed in one hit from Boba.
Yeah, that's a good point. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a Boba flip into an Ezra or something to that effect. Um, or if Boba doesn't flip first, then you could deploy your Hera to get the discount active from having
Yeah,
2 units.
the Ezra can't actually be played right now unless Hera flips or plays another
Mhm.
card because the ability isn't live and the splash base was already used. But if Hera
Yeah,
flips
Zeb played, and Zeb
right.
would be very bad on your Boba flip. Um, so I might have liked flipping Boba first action there before Hera was online. But
Yeah,
it also depends on what Richard wants to play this turn.
As a general heuristic for this game, I do think attacking early in the turn with powerful units is a good idea, but there just is a lot less removal in limited, so that prototype tie advance might
Hmm.
not have been under the type of threat that would really necessitate making a quick push.
Yeah. And we see just the vanilla 5/5 Sentinel coming out. I like this card a lot. It kind of makes the Ezra a little bit moot because healing the Sabine doesn't matter. So yeah, just trading in with the Sabine now, and now you can flip Boba and just kind of have a leader off. But the Rando Mando still has his resources to spend, and Richard's already spent his. So a potential chance for Rando Mando to try to take a lead in this game one.
Yeah, may have been a pass here. We see a second action
I
here
believe it
from Rando
was.
Mandos, a swing from Hera, damaging the base and healing. And it is worth noting Hera's ability is
Yeah.
off right now. There's only Hera on the field. So
Hmm.
that Ezra, once again, not able to be played efficiently. Two resources being spent. I think this is a chopper coming in. Yep, chopper.
Yeah.
One
Only one
experience.
XP though, 'cause no
Not the
other
finest play in the
aspects
world.
on the field. Yeah.
Might actually be a bait for Arvel here. I'm not sure.
Well, it's also interesting because you're yeah. So I think he's just saying, yeah, take this credit. Oh no, what will I ever do now that you have a credit? And then play in the
Yep.
Arvel.
So it
Taking
was
the
a bait
space
for
unit is
Arvel.
interesting.
Oh yeah. I would have
I
assumed
think we
that he would go
saw.
for Boba
I would expect he may have the event 2 to a unit and 2 to a base or a unit in the same arena.
collateral damage.
Um,
Yeah.
Collateral damage. Yeah, there may be a collateral damage coming that now you can just get the base up to 10 and kill the space unit. And since you're head on the
Yep.
race, you don't have to do that first action. But
Yeah, the other
love this
option with
piece.
so with Arvel, you can choose to deal one damage to a unit or base when you destroy a credit. So the options
Hmm.
there were he also could have sent that one damage to Boba, which would have put it in a position where Hera could clear Boba with one hit. But because
Hmm.
I think right now the Hera player is the aggressor, so doesn't really care about that. And then
Yeah.
one damage to base would be, gets you a little bit closer, but I do think the hit on the prototype tie advanced indicates there is probably some 2 damage effect waiting in the wings for it.
Yeah. And the nice thing here is the only unit Boba can kill is the Arvel, and it's still a trade back even without the extra damage. So
Mhm.
that may also have played into Rando Mando's thinking on where the ping goes.
Yeah. Alright.
Now Arvel doesn't kill Boba anymore. And yeah, we see the 2 drop coming in clutch there. It's not usually a very high priority card because you don't really want to play it just a vanilla 1/3 on turn one. But here, really showing, we've talked about it so much how 1 +1 +1 or -1 -0 can sway so much in limited.
Yeah, and that Black Sun Cabalist with the experience token there for Boba means Boba could now potentially take out Arvel and, remain alive. I'm actually a little
Hmm.
surprised we don't see an attack with Arvel under those circumstances.
I think I might was there may have been a second Arvel in hand, so this may be a second bait to try to get
Oh, it would be
Richard
a
to make
great bait
another
if so
credit
be
to kill Boba.
yeah, that would be an amazing play. Oh, does he have it? It would be so spicy if he does that.
Yeah. Oh, just the amber. So not as devastating, I don't think for Richard as a second Arvel would have been. He still has his credit to spend this turn and just 1 health left on the ground unit.
Yeah, so instead of a second Arvel Skeen, it was a Circuit Challenger coming in there.
Hmm.
And we still have that slightly damaged prototype tie advanced. Now a big play, the Undercity Hunting Team showing up.
Yeah,
And so this card has a when played effect that allows you to search the top 5 cards of your deck for a bounty hunter, reveal it, and draw it. And
yeah.
is
Also
also a
setting up
bounty
to
hunter
take out
itself.
either unit. Hmm. Yeah, and can well. So Richard is threatening a big cleanup of the board in this upcoming turn that Rando Mando is going to need to deal with.
Yeah, so this version of Forlom is a 5 cost 4/5. When played, you may attack with a friendly bounty hunter unit even if it's exhausted. It can't attack bases for this attack, but we could easily see that Undercity hunting team wind up clearing both units if there isn't
Hmm.
an answer here. Now, on the other hand, this would be an ideal circumstance for like a Zeb, but I don't think this Hera deck has one based on what we saw being drafted.
Yeah, and they also they do have the green unit, so it would be the extra damage. But yeah, I don't believe we saw a Zeb in the deck building process.
Right. All right, Hera, had the advantage early, maybe losing some momentum now.
Yeah, and
More damage
interesting
to
here
base and restore.
because you could do the same, just take out the circuit breakers, have 1 HP left. Um,
Yeah,
should be
I think
11.
having the Undercity hunting team take out the challenger and then play Forlom to have it take out Hera too. That seems like a pretty good line to me, unless I'm missing something.
Mhm. The other option is you could try to be greedy and keep both your units alive. You could Forlom, have him because he can target himself, so you could have him take out the circuit, and then have the Undercity champion going to Hera. But that's a little bit more risky. Of maybe a Sentinel comes in the
Yeah,
way and saves the Hera. Maybe something happens. Um,
looks like Richard is definitely going to use the team, but it's going to be an attack into Hera instead. No, okay, that was a
no,
that
no,
was
I
an
think
error
Mando
on
just
Random
put the wrong
Mando's
unit
part.
out.
It's
Yeah.
the Circuit Challenger. That makes a lot more sense.
Then yeah, this is another spot where an Arvo would be very devastating.
Yeah, Arvel here to kill that Circuit Challenge, or I'm sorry, not the Circuit Challenger, the Undercity hunting team
Yeah.
would be a massive play. But it's not. That's gonna
Six,
be
seven, raid
the
3.
Onaka
Also a
Gang
big play.
bandits threatening a lot of potential damage to the base.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think for anyone at home wondering how good Arvel is in limited, think about just look back through this game how often it would have been amazing in a deck that does not make any credits. There's so much like it's so just situationally good a lot of the time. Anyway, and I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Arvelskine is a very strong card, arguably the strongest of the anti-credit cards.
Hmm.
There's some debate there. I think Lieutenant Gorn, has better base stats, so is better in the scenario where you're not caring about credits in particular. Um,
Yeah.
Galen Urso also has some moves for sure, but Arvel
Hmm.
is Arvel is I think maybe the best option.
Yeah. And so we see kind of a just a play a 2-3 to take a second and pass for a second here.
Yeah, I think it was the partisan infantry there, and
Hmm.
double cross. That is a massive play at this point in the game. Look at that. He is swapping those bandits for the damaged tie advance there. The player who takes
Yeah.
control of the lower cost unit does create credit tokens equal to the difference between those units' costs. So he is enriching his opponent, but that is a massive swing.
Yeah, and if especially if your opponent already claimed, they can't. It goes back to what has been talked about a lot of times with Vel, where late game you just give them the credits because at that point they're limited by the cards in their hand. You're not letting them just play ahead of curve. Yeah, getting this 9 damage, so it's a 5 damage swing, plus you gain what 5 health back in the process as well. So it's huge swing in terms of potentially winning the race in a game that was very tight in that regard before.
Yeah, double cross. That is a massive play there. Really impactful move, and we'll see whether the Hera player can recover. Earlier on, it seemed like the
Hmm.
Hera player really had an advantage. Felt like they were kind of bogging down in the mid game, and at this point, I would actually say it's the Boba player that is in the lead after that huge play.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe Hera has to trade into this 5-5 now.
Nope, staying on the
No,
base,
just still going straight to base.
up to 14 damage on that base, and another point of damage healed from Hera's own base. So that's going to be 8 damage on Hera's base, 19 HP left. 13 HP remaining for Boba. but there's a huge amount of damage that Boba has on the field arrayed against Terra here.
Yeah, 17 damage on board for Boba right now.
Yep. Not quite lethal,
Mhm.
but Hera is not even close to lethal with only 4 damage remaining on the
Yeah.
board. Oh, look at that. Commence the festivities. That's gonna be +2
So did
power
he
and
skip
saboteur on this
resourcing to get the
attack.
+2?
Oh, does he have fewer resources? Yeah, did he skip resourcing?
He does, yeah, 7 to 8. Mhm.
Okay.
So, yeah, he has 1 fewer resource. So, yeah, so it is the +2
Okay, so now we have 12 HP remaining on that base, which I believe means it's
and
in
12 on
range.
board. Yeah, the 2-3 in play is raid 1, the 6-7 in play is raid 3. So, it looks like 12 damage being presented right now on Richard's side.
Rando Mando needs to be making some plays to stop some of this incoming damage, but doesn't seem able to do it or is maybe holding off. It's just going to be a swing from the prototype tie advanced. Does get that other base up to 18, but that's still 9 HP left, and I don't see a way that he's going to do that 9 damage this turn.
Yeah, it has to have something from hand or a sentinel or something to that effect to slow this down. Ooh, he
Takes
claims.
in takes
So
initiative.
he's
I mean, that's
sped.
basically that. That's
That is that, yeah.
wow. I guess he just didn't have anything
Yeah.
relevant.
So interesting there where he could have traded Hera into the 5-5. So I'm curious what he had. He thought that he was going to be able to win that race with the 2 damage with Richard being 2 damage short. So I'm really curious what was in his hand there and what his plan was without the commence the festivities. It was a really close game without it, but it looked like he needed a little bit more damage either way.
Got it.
But yeah, interesting into game 1 there.
Yeah, I
That
do
double cross
wonder.
was huge.
I do wonder what the thought was because that plan did not work out for him. But that's how it goes sometimes. We're going to be moving on into game 2. Let's see whether or not we can get more of a result. Double cross, I think, has to be the star player of that game. Swapping a
Yeah.
not a bad card, but a kind of, medium card for a
Mhm.
late game bomb that your opponent just played. And then having the Hera player unable to make use of those credits in any meaningful way. That was a massive swing in that first game.
Yeah, and I wonder if Rando Mando is gonna play differently now that he knows that that exists. Is he gonna not wanna play his large units? Like, how does this affect how he plays in game 2? I'm really interested about that. A lot of bombs, you say, "Okay, I may need to save my removal for this bomb unit," but this is the card that just says, "If you play a bomb, I take it." So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The That double cross might be a great answer to some of those 8 cost units and so on that we've seen in the Hera draft.
mhm,
But, you're not guaranteed to draw it. It is a rare, probably only
yeah,
has 1 copy, and might not be in a situation where there's a unit that makes a good swap. We'll have to
mhm,
see whether that double cross ends up playing a big role in the rest of this match.
yeah. Yeah, and another one to think about is now that Richard knows that there's at least one Arvel in Rando Mando's deck, does he play his credit generation differently?
Good
Um,
point.
because I think if something like when the chopper came out, it was very clear to us because we saw the Arvel that he's baiting to play the Arvel to ping a unit. So it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe in game 2, Richard doesn't fall for it if there's something like, "Oh, oops, I played this 2-drop that you can kill," now that he knows exactly what the punish is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although it is worth noting also, Random Mando didn't have a great follow-up to that ping. We never
Yeah,
saw collateral damage or whatever clearing that ship and damaging the base. Although to be fair, the ship ended up
mhm.
being sent over to Random Mando's side, so maybe we
True.
would have seen something like that if the
Yeah.
double cross hadn't swung things so dramatically.
Yeah, and I think going into that turn, I said that this is the turn where Rando Mando has to try to get a lead and try to snowball from there, and it just never really happened. So we'll have to see if he can get that advantage going a little bit harder in this game.
Yeah, and so here we have partisan infantry and the honor bound partisan, both sides bringing out partisan units.
Mhm. Yeah, the honor bound partisan is really interesting. It's not a bounty hunter, but Richard could just sacrifice it into this 2/3 to play a 4-drop this turn if he wants to. Like he's got a lot of options
Yeah.
because of that.
The
Looks like we
partisan
see his Zuckuss
infantry
in hand.
the partisan infantry can defeat the honor bound partisan while remaining alive. And it looks like
Mhm.
that's going to be Rando Mando's choice, but this does mean that when defeated effect goes off. Let's see if we see a 4-drop.
I don't mind that attack from Rando Mando because what you don't want is maybe what Richard has in hand is a 5-drop that he really wants to play, and he wants to sacrifice his partisan next turn. So you're
Right.
basically saying it's 4-drop now, or you get no value from it. So I don't hate that attack, even though it may seem like, hey, you're giving up, you're giving this boba value. I think there's a lot of merit into that attack.
Yeah. Plus you cleared a unit and your unit stays on the board.
Hmm.
Scarcely a terrible spot to be in.
Yeah, and I do see a Zuckuss, so we may see base and just play a Zuckuss this turn.
Base being used, I think you could be right. Yeah, there's Zuckuss. So Zuckuss here is a bounty hunter unit where you want to be. All it was the inspired recruit.
Not the most inspiring. Um,
No, and also really something that could be vulnerable to Zuckuss, the two small units here. If
mhm.
Richard can play another bounty hunter, Zuckuss could swing clear one of these units with the attack and the other with the on attack ability.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We see he has a Forlom in hand, but he's already used the out of aspect base, so he won't be able to play that until 7.
Not
Um,
great. This is also
and so it's going to be harder for Hera to kill. And now this Zuckuss can go to base and clean up a unit. It can kill a unit. It can attack a unit and kill the other one.
yeah, that's really tough. Hera needs to find some answer to Zuckuss, or if you were able to somehow defeat that seasoned tracker, that would also disable Zuckuss's on attack ability. But with hidden, these units can't attack into it.
Hmm.
It's going to be tough to see just what looks like. It's just
Oh,
going to be a
interesting.
crash in there from the partisan infantry, but Zuckuss can now attack the base and ping off the inspired recruit.
Yeah. So the point of that attack was basically Rando saying, "I'm not giving you a credit. Your
Right.
Zuckuss is now damaged, but I don't want you to clear my board and get a credit in the process."
Wow, and once again, the Hera player playing far below
Ooh.
curve. Last turn missed
Yeah.
2 resources of value, and this turn misses another 2 resources of value. All that's played here is the Cavern Angels X-Wing. This Hera player has had a very poor early game.
Yeah, Rando Mando has spent 3 out of a possible 7 resources available to him over the last 2 turns, which is really not ideal when your opponent is pumping out triple aspect 4 drops that are already above rate on 3 resources.
Yeah.
So we're seeing Richard really start to run away with this game. This is the flip turn for both players. So Rando's going to have to do something special to start the comeback this turn.
Yeah, and there's just been a massive difference in resource utilization between these players,
Yeah.
where Richard has actually played above the normally available resources, while Rando
Mhm.
Mando has unfortunately been far below.
Yeah, if you count out of aspect penalties as being spent, Richard has spent 10 resources out of a possible 7, whereas Rando Mando spent 3.
Yeah, not good at all here for Rando Mando, but let's see if he can turn things around. Now, one problem also is Zuckuss is actually threatening to kill Hera in one hit if she flips.
Mhm.
You could use the on attack ability to deal 3 damage, and then the normal combat damage would defeat Hera. Yes, it would be a trade, but
Yeah.
not a great position for Hera, especially because her ability is currently off and she needs to flip to get a second unit on the board if she wants to play a
Mhm.
more expensive card with that text. Looks like we
Seeing the
see a
base
five
get
resource
utilized
play.
here.
Oh,
Oh, that's a good
K2.
start.
Yeah, not at
So
all
on
bad.
attack, deal 3 damage to a damaged unit. So kill the Zuckuss with the on attack and attack into the Boba Fett to deal 3 to it. So now if Boba wants to kill the K2, he dies back. Hera can also clean up the boba now. So yeah, I mean that's a really good start.
Yeah, really solid play there, K2SO. The ambush allowing some nice damage on Boba. The on attack ability getting Zuckuss off the field, clearing the way for Hera to potentially deploy. And once Hera's on the field, maybe like you said, she could clear Boba and then get the restore going as well. All of
Yeah, and for the viewers at home, the rule used to be when the text says when this unit completes an attack, it was implied that the unit has to survive.
look at
Um,
this staccato lightning
yeah,
repeater.
yeah, that's huge. So now 7 attack could be threatening Hera, but also probably just 7 to base. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So
they
staccato
changed the
lightning
definition of when
repeater.
an attack ends now. So if the unit has to survive, it says that on the card. If this unit completes an attack and survives.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. Go
So
ahead. Go ahead about the staccato.
yeah, this repeater, when played, it deals 1 damage to each of up to 3 different ground units. The only target here is K2, but more importantly, it's a +3/+1, which now means
Hmm.
that if Hera were to attack into Boba, she would actually die as well. And Boba is
Yeah.
going to use this to push more damage to the base. So we now have a total of 15 damage on Hera's base, and our Hera player takes the initiative without swinging.
So they took the initiative because K2 can still trade into Boba. So they needed they couldn't get hit by Boba again. So Rando Mando says, "Okay, I have to attack this K2, deal 3 damage to the damaged Boba on attack and then trade the K2 in as well."
Yeah, and that 1 HP from the staccato lightning repeater is crucial here because it means that K2
Oh yeah.
actually has to die. Otherwise, the on attack ability to damage a damaged unit could have been used to remove Boba. But that 1
Yeah.
HP is huge. You know, the
Oh yeah.
actual damage effect from that repeater was not that big a deal, but the stats were massive.
Now we get Target Tagger to kill the Hera. So man, we're just getting heavyweight punch after heavyweight punch here. So Target Tagger is a good card in general, but so good in Boba, where you basically get to Fleet Lieutenant onto a bounty hunter, and it
Yeah.
lets him trade up into this Hera.
Target Tagger is literally Fleet Lieutenant except Bounty Hunter. 3 for a
Hmm.
3/3. When played, you may attack with a unit. If it's a Bounty Hunter, it gets +2 power for this attack. Uh, Probably a little worse than Fleet Lieutenant in overall power level because, as you were mentioning earlier in the stream, the Bounty Hunter ships don't have the Bounty Hunter trait. So Fleet Lieutenant
Yeah.
could work on both space and ground units, whereas the Target Tagger is only going to be on the ground, but Fleet Lieutenant is a very good card, and Target Tagger is certainly a solid one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now,
Oh,
that Target
Richard with
Tagger
three
did not live
resources
too
left
long.
here.
Circuit Challenger picked it off.
Hmm. Oh, Richard with nothing else to play. So now Richard's the one leaving resources.
Yeah.
But he does have 15 damage on base to Rando Mando has only been able to deal 4 damage so far.
Yeah, and so the Circuit
But is this
Challenger
a turning point?
4/2 essentially right now. The 2 ground if the 2
Mhm.
ground units ended up trading, we would be left with only that Cavern Angel's X-Wing on the field. Boba Fett losing some of his momentum here for sure, and that is
Ooh.
gonna be a trade there. Boba's ability gets used, so that will be a credit, and that might enable a really big play.
Yeah, I think if you don't need the credit, you just get the 4 damage to base there. So I would expect Richard to need to use all of his resources this turn. This is where if there's an Arvel, which there is,
Oh,
so this is disaster for Richard. I assume he really wanted that credit for his cost curve this turn. Now he doesn't get the damage on base. The trade was probably going to happen on Rando Mando's side anyway, but now he loses the credit still and has this Arvel here.
now Richard at this point is well ahead on damage dealt to the base, but is losing ground in terms of actual board control. Needs to make some good plays this
Mhm.
turn to regain power. There's Dengar on the field, but Dengar is
Yeah,
not that exciting here.
it depends on if Rando plays anything else. Dengar could kill the Arvel. I don't remember if Dengar says you have to survive.
No, I don't think so.
Um,
So if
no, it doesn't.
Dengar
So
killed
yeah,
Arvel, it would actually be 2 credits.
correct. Then well, now there's a 4 drop. So now that's not the case
Yeah,
anymore.
now Dengar's ability is off. And then I believe here we have the Quarren Contractor hitting the board.
Hmm.
So that's going to be a
Yeah, 3/4
3/4
Sentinel
Sentinel
crit.
with
This
Grit,
trades with
which
Arvel at the moment.
yeah, lines up badly against Arvel, but whatever. Still gonna at least
Hmm.
trade. Could be worse.
Yeah.
And I do think if you're Rando Mando, you probably take that trade to prevent the opponent from getting a credit with Dengar.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. And then Rando Mando putting a non-negligible amount of pressure in the space arena now with 6 power in space.
Yep.
So may start to close that life point gap pretty quickly.
Yeah, the overcharged transports ability not relevant here. So it has when played and when defeated, you may defeat an upgrade attached to a space unit. There aren't any upgrades on space units right now, so that's not doing a
Mhm.
lot. But it is also a 4/3, so there's more damage in space. However, Rando Mando is still very behind in the overall race, and Dengar may not be the strongest unit ever, but he's still swinging for 4 damage. There's only so many more hits like that Rando
Yeah,
Mando's base can take.
and four power in space here, so more questions that need answering. So Rando Mando may have to start trading his space units in as well.
There should be a really good time for.
There is
Oh,
the
it's the
ghost.
ghost. Let's take a look at
So
what's going to happen here. Ghost is going to give out experience and actually can give an experience and
and
shield to
shields.
2 different units because he has the out of aspect bonus. One of them goes on Ghost, one of them goes on the Cavern Angel's X-Wing. And now that humble X-Wing is poised to knock out one of these TIE advanced prototypes, not even leaving the field, just losing a shield token. But we have another TIE advanced prototype entering the field here for Richard. And
Richard has lethal on board. If he first action attacks with the prototype advanced, Rando Mando has to do something on the ground to stop this Dengar.
yeah, or heal or something.
Yeah, he has to do something not in play currently.
Right.
He has to do something not currently.
Commence the festivities, damage bonus not even needed. I don't know if he had it or not, but the saboteur even with that very efficient ghost play.
Hmm. Yeah, we saw the just kind of the Boba just kind of powering through there, even with the credit hate, just trying to get to an.
The stat line has not historically been that powerful when it comes to constructed play, even all the way back in set one. But
Yeah,
in draft, that can be different. And those units can be very threatening when your opponent is low on base HP.
yeah, definitely. And so our backup match is also finished. So we are going to take a quick break until we are ready for top four. At which point, Tower and myself will both be back. So hang out with us for just a little bit until we get on to the semifinals. I'm Jeff Creasy, the Bot the Network, here with Tower number 9. Thanks for hanging out.
Welcome back to the late night gaming coverage of the Hobby Nights Limited Planetary Qualifier. I am Tower number 9, joined here by Jeff Creasy from the Bothan Network, and we are about to move into the top 4. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm excited. Um, I think that we have one leader that we've been seeing all day and one leader that we haven't seen at all day. So it's an we'll have to I'm very curious how this round goes.
Yeah, so it looks like it looks like we're going to be having a match here with Boba Fett, or I'm sorry, with Aura Singh versus Vel Sartha. As you said, one leader that we've been seeing quite a lot, one leader that we have not been seeing so much.
Yeah, and I mean we already saw some of it. We saw the Vel's hand had the droid missile turret, the 2-1 shielded sentinel, which is a very good card against leaders that are not Aura Singh. And then we see a mulligan.
Yeah, that droid laser turret, another card that Aura Singh does great against. Just for the viewers, Aura Singh has the ability to exhaust and just straight up defeat a non-leader unit with 1 or less remaining HP. The unit is just off the board immediately. Not the leader that you want to start off with Leppy Lookout against.
Yeah,
Looks like
shields
Vel
be
is going to
danged.
begin things. I believe that's the Criminal Contact. So a 2-cost 1/4 that can make a credit if you pay 2 on attack. And then I think it's the Haxian Aggressor on the other side. A 2/2
Mhm.
Raid 2, which lines up pretty well against that Criminal Contact.
Yeah, I've been trying to come to terms with the fact that this 2/2 raid 2 is just a good turn 1 play. It's fine. Um, even if you don't have initiative here, it can still trade favorably into this. I don't see a token on the out of aspect base, but that is an out of aspect card that got played on turn 1. So
Hmm.
hopefully that gets tracked.
Interesting point.
I
Is it,
thought during the
I
draft
thought
it was aura red.
Yeah, maybe it's Aura Red and they just didn't have a red base available. I'm not sure. But
We shall
might
see.
be misremembering.
Because yeah, this is our one of our featured drafters that we got to watch.
Ooh, a shield
Yeah,
token
immediately playing
for
a
the
shield.
yeah, so the shield drive outfitter shows up when played, pays 1 to give a shield token to the Haxian there. Then the criminal contact attacks in and breaks the shield. We did
Hmm.
see the stalwart fleet trooper on the field as well. So now the Haxian aggressor trades.
Well, it's nice
The
here because you have this 1/3 left over, but you can just attack into what I call the camel. Let it have 1 HP left, and Aura can kill it. So you don't
Yeah.
have to necessarily give up the extra damage of swinging this 2/2 into the 1/4. You can kind of utilize your leader ability a bit.
Yeah, that is the Imperial Door Technician. Little little kind of joke unit there, reference to I believe Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Mm.
Have you played that game?
I played it a little bit, but it was hard for me to get into. That's the Cal Kestis game, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's that the second one, I believe.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, I played it a little bit, but didn't get very far into it.
Well, I won't spoil the door technician for you in case you pick it back up, but it's a funny moment from that game.
Thank you. Nice, nice. A lot of thought going into this first action. Ah,
Yeah.
there we go. They got the base corrected
Okay.
up. I thought it was
We were
red when we saw it.
w-
So that's
we
his
were
credit
right.
token,
It
not his
was an
base. Yeah.
incorrect base. I think he was showing a credit token there saying that he had like flipped
Yeah.
over the wrong credit token to be his base.
Hmm. Are is the top 8 draft open deck list or no?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because it could theoretically change your plays a little bit if you think. I know they did it at the regionals after the draft, and that may be what is being discussed now.
You could be right.
I am not sure.
Hmm.
And yeah, that is the judge is looking at that right now. Cards are getting picked up that may have been a game loss for having the wrong base. I'm not 100% sure. We're getting the info real time here with what is happening.
Yeah, I don't know if they're starting over or if it's a game loss or what exactly is happening there.
Don't think they would start over. Yeah, it's a game loss for having the wrong base.
Very unfortunate
So
situation there.
yeah,
But yeah, make sure that you put the right base card on the table.
I've had to sideboard. After this game two, they will be allowed to sideboard.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
I have yeah, I think I see a report here saying they were allowed to sideboard for this game too. I'm
I
not sure if
think that
that's
might be a
strictly correct
typo.
as per procedure though.
Either way, I didn't see either of them sideboard, so
People often don't actually have sideboards. I mean, you can do it in
in
limited.
draft
You're
it's a lot
allowed to,
harder.
but people
You
often
can.
do not really have it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, "Hey, I drafted, I drafted what I drafted, man. This is what we got."
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's see how this progresses. We are yeah, we're going into that second round after an unfortunate game loss to lead things off here. But it's not a match loss. There absolutely is still a chance here. There absolutely is still a chance. We seem to be seeing some footage from the backup match here with Han Solo versus Boba Fett for a moment. Um, let's see what's going on here. So it looks like we have a scenario where there's a lot more damage on Han's base, but he has a stronger board in the ground arena. Um, and now we're going to see some attacks here. Yeah, so it looks like Boba just deployed. There's 14 damage on Han's base. Boba's going to do some more damage to the base. We are now up to 18 damage on Han's base and 13 on Boba's base with Han Solo left to attack. Han is going to swing here.
Oh, defeat the XP to deal damage. I like that.
Yeah, that's a solid play. Defeats the XP on his own unit to remove the damaged prototype tie advanced, also dealing some more damage to the base. It's now 18 to 17. Han with the slightly stronger board.
We may be switching back to the other table. We may be staying here for a second. We'll see what happens. But either way, this is very interesting personally.
Okay, so we are now going to return you to Aura Singh versus Vel Sartha. It looks like early on in the game we've had I think maybe one or two unit exchanges here. A Storm Raider maybe trading with a Valiant Fleet Trooper, and a Callous Bounty Hunter now the only unit on the field over on Aura's side of the board. But Vel still has several resources left to use, maybe?
Yeah.
or maybe has just been faster to resource. Yeah, going into the next turn, it's Aura leading us off.
Combat here that also ramps your opponent into their flip turn a turn early. You're already a 7 deploy leader. But if you don't take the trade, Vel just gets to put an XP on it, threaten that, now killing your unit.
Right.
So really tough decision there.
Yeah, and it looks like our Aura player doesn't want to go and initiate the ramp immediately. So it's going to be an attack to base from the Callous Bounty Hunter. Vel indeed buffs that expendable mercenary. Now it is worth noting if the mercenary takes out the bounty hunter, Aura could use her ability. And there's that droid laser turret on the field. I believe paid for
Mhm.
with the credit that Vel just gave to
Yeah.
Aura's side of things. So once again,
Yeah.
Vel's ability proving a bit double edged. The expendable mercenary could attack into the droid laser turret and remove the shield, but would not be defeated and thus would not ramp.
Yeah, and I think having a 3 drop there really helps swing the decision of do you attack or not. I think either way you probably don't, because letting Vel deploy 2 turns earlier than you instead of 1 is a really big deal.
Yeah, I don't think
Now,
that's a desirable
assuming
spot to be
that
in.
yeah, assuming that this the Vel has no way to kill their own unit here, then you're in an okay spot where it's still just going to be 1 turn early even if you ramp them.
Mm, yeah, and I think it's a little interesting here. Ramp has been in a much weaker state in this game since rotation.
Mhm.
Um, Early on, we had some very powerful ramp cards like Resupply and Super Laser Technician, but now we have some good options for ramping into units faster, but ramp cards that actually increase your resources and thus let you get your leader out sooner. Those are really a lot less common these days.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially with something like a super laser technician where the resource came in ready and you could go from 4 to 5 and flip your 5 deploy leader. It puts so much pressure on anyone trying to deploy after 5 when when you would see something like a Boba Green versus a Palpatine in set 1 where you have these really high deploy leaders versus these I get my leader, way earlier and still have all the resources to use. So I like the newly designed ramp a lot, where it's a little bit slower in terms of leader deploys.
Looks like a collateral damage fired off there for 2 damage to the expendable mercenary and 2 damage to base, followed by, I believe, an incapacitate to clear that smuggler's YT
Yeah.
2400 as well. Or
So
rather, an
the
incapacitate and
incapacitate
then
gave
Aura's
-2, and then
leader
aura
ability.
ability. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that a lot where you can kill it once the Vel has claimed. You're technically giving them 1 ready to resource here, but that's fine. The main thing is you just don't want the leader to deploy a turn early.
Yeah.
And Mylodon Rider, very good card coming out. So using the out of aspect base to get the ambush in there and kill the sentinel. So now Vel is free to attack whatever it would like.
All right, let's see here. I think it's the Dogged
Dogged Pursuer.
Pursuers.
I like that card a lot.
Yeah, kind of a comparatively basic card, but sometimes you don't need something really splashy. 5 cost 5/5, and you can put in limited cards like that. They fill their role well, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Vel attacks and clears it, but that does give another experience to Aura's side of the board.
Yeah, an
All things
interesting
considered, Aura's
sequencing
not
here
doing bad.
now. Much.
Yeah, I think the Callous Bounty Hunter can just trade for Vel. That seems like a good trade. Yeah,
Yeah.
you take some damage from the Mylodon Rider, but now Aura can flip and clear that one off the field, and you're still left with a
Mhm.
situation where your leader just flipped. They have nothing on board, and you've done more damage to their base, even though you're like the
Yeah.
slower, more control-oriented deck. Pretty good spot
Mhm.
for Aura, all things considered.
Yeah, definitely. And now this is where Vel is wishing they had drafted some of those 8 drop eight drop ground units or higher cost units that you always see late that you often don't get to.
Yeah, and it is worth noting Vel is ramped here still from that expendable mercenary, so does have access
Mhm.
to 8 resource plays this turn if they're available, or could just try and spend a bunch of resources on bringing out multiple small units. Looks like it might be the second one with a liberated Wookiee, 2 cost 2/4 vanilla hitting the board.
Yeah. Awkwardly enough, the 2 drop that was just played cannot be killed in one swing by the 7 deploy leader.
Mm.
So, got some stat discrepancies here. Ooh, the Mandalorian. Don't get to trigger it as much in limited, more of just a 6/5 shielded unit, but that's still not bad.
Grit
So
here, potentially allowing that unit to get a lot bigger, but the question is it actually going to get a chance to do that? The answer
no,
might
it's
well
just
be
getting taken out
no.
by the Mando shield. That was why you see the claim without the aura attack there, so that there's not a chance for Vel to give another XP.
Yep, somewhat. Now what's happened? Oh, what's happening here?
I think he just went a little fast and he
Got
just
it.
readied
Okay.
his stuff and never didn't ready his Mando and took off the shield instead of hitting that. So I'm not sure. Maybe they're just going to be a little more precise with it. Or oh no, he switched up to go to base. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it because now if aura attacks, then one Mando attack is lethal, and you can't currently. You can kill the Mando on board. You have to run the Wookiee into the shield, give an XP to the security, then run the security into the Mando. But that's a lot of commitment that can also be interrupted. Looks
So is
like
this
is that and
attack
that might be
not
another
not going to
Mylodon
happen? What
rider.
is happening here?
He attacked base.
Okay, yeah, base.
Yeah, so he switched his attack instead of clearing the grit unit. He put the base up to 19. And then, yeah, I like
Yeah,
this.
okay.
You just clear the shield, so now the Mando is much more exposed.
Let's see here. That
And the
shield
shield's
goes
back.
right back on there with the shield drive technician, or the shield drive outfitter rather.
Mhm. Yeah, really recognizing that there are multiple 5 attack ambushers in these colors, saying, yeah, I could wait to see if you Vel give an XP, but I'm just gonna give the shield right now because I don't want to get ambushed. And we see the ambush in the hand for the Vel player as well.
Yeah. Let's see here.
It's really interesting. You could give the Vel XP, so then you could at least pop the Mando shield without dying, which looks like what he's going for.
Yeah.
So now up to 2
Okay.
credits for the Aura player.
We're seeing some real back and forth shit.
Mhm.
Pretty grim for Vel, honestly.
Need a lot of we see the Blade Wing to bounce the Mando, but it's not enough anymore after that mastery.
Yeah.
Basically, now as Vel, you have to claim and try to draw a Sentinel.
Yeah. Mando gets bounced by Blade Wing. Syndicate security doesn't have grit enabled, so can't clear. Hondo
Okay.
Onaka played with the splash base and the credit there.
Mhm.
So Hondo here has the ability to play the top card of your deck and to look at the top card of your deck. I don't know how relevant that is, but Hondo also has the ability to swing for 3.
Yeah, the ability to swing for 3 is what you're looking for here, and it's gonna come in clutch here because it's gonna be able to kill the Sentinel.
Yeah.
So Hondo being any smaller would make this a lot more awkward.
Yeah.
Good recognition from the Aura player that there are a lot of 3 health Sentinels. You have the Bith Brute as well as I think it's well actually the other one is a 3. No, they're both 4 threes. The Saboteur and the Grit are both 4 threes. So
Okay, so it
Yeah,
looks
on to
like
game
Hondo
3.
clears the Bith Brute. There's no other answer, and Vel is defeated here. But because of the game loss to our Aura player for that first one with the wrong base, we are now going to move on to the third game of the match, and the winner of this one will prevail.
Yeah. Really, really cool showing by Aura. I think if you look at a lot of people's tier list of leaders, they have Aura at the very bottom and Vel at the very top.
Hmm.
Aura showing that she can really hang, and we saw the leader ability, both the front side action and the flip, be very useful in that game too.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I don't. It doesn't look like there's much sideboarding going on here, so I think we're just going to be moving into that third game of the match with the same sorts of things
Mhm.
available as in the previous one.
Yeah, the only interesting thing is maybe if you're Vel, do you have anything else to play instead of we saw at least one droid laser turret, um, which you just really can't ever play against Aura. I mean, there it just gets resource. So if you have anything else at all that you could play, you could put it in. But
All right. Looks like our Vel player has a confident first set of resources. Our Aura player may be taking a mulligan here, or may have just been taking longer to set up. Okay, here we go. Vel leads us off, follower of the code. You know, 2 cost 2 3 restore 1, that's respectable. In limited, that's respectable.
oh yeah, absolutely.
There is a period where cards like that even saw play in constructed. We had things like
Hmm.
the restored Arc 170, which was 2 cost 2 3 restore 1 in space, and then the pilot Hera, although she could of course be a pilot or a ground unit with that profile.
Yeah,
And it actually lines up really well against that against the Haxian aggressor there. The facing off with the droid laser turret in a battle of the Sentinels, but the droid laser turret is way ahead in that battle because
yeah.
with the shield and with Aura's ability, that's essentially very effective protection. If the stalwart fleet trooper did opt to attack into the laser turret, Aura's ability could be used to remove him.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised there wasn't a Vel ability before that. Like, made I don't know. It didn't make much sense before the attack with the 2-3 because you just lose initiative and die to the raid anyway. But here, it looks a little bit better to just get yourself out of the out of aura range. Or if you force them to attack, you just get to attack and trade in. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I'm a
He
little
does go for the
surprised.
XP though.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
goes for
guessing
the
he's
XP.
not planning to attack and wants to claim.
Yeah, maybe the plan is to clear with the bike marauder on the next turn, draw a card in the process, still have your unit on the board. Could work. I think I would have been I think I would have been inclined to just do what you were thinking though and crash the stalwart fleet trooper in immediately once the droid laser turret
Mhm.
attacks. Looks like a
Yeah, it just
5
feels so
cost unit
risky
being
here.
another sentinel, the Canto Bite security on the field. And this is the card that creates a credit token on defense.
Yeah, and also threatening the same stat lines against this 4/4 of if you attack into it, then aura ability is online. So this aura ability has been really relevant every time that we've seen it.
Yeah,
Just
it's funny.
taking the
We're talking
trade
about how
there.
it's not always the most relevant. Yeah, so that ended up being a really bad situation here for our Vel
Yeah.
player because the Vel ability let the opponent essentially play a stronger card than they would have been able to otherwise. And then you end up just attacking and trading anyway with the Stalwart Fleet Trooper. So you didn't get value out of it on your side. That's a rough spot to be in. All right, we're going into that next turn here. It's going to be the 5 resource turn. The Swoop Bike Marauder could be buffed by Velsartha here to become a 5/5, which would enable both a one-hit kill on the Canto Bite security and would also mean that Aura's ability would no longer be in range. However, it looks like some resources are being used first. And
Ooh, the
once
4/6 grit
again,
again.
the Syndicate security hitting the board 4/6 with grit. We'll see whether or not that grit can get built up this time. What will our Aura player go for here? Aura's ability
Interesting.
used to
Going for the
do
soft
nothing,
pass.
essentially essentially a stall. But might be being reconsidered here. Not entirely sure.
Well, it's tough because if they attack in with a 4/4, you may want to actually be able to use it.
Right. Yeah, like if you do waste the ability, the opponent could just go for the basic swing. But I think you'd be inclined to buff with Vel anyway,
Hmm.
because every
Yeah.
time you attack into that unit, you give the opponent a credit. So I think it really makes a lot of sense to try and kill it in one swing instead of two, even if one swing, even if swinging immediately without the buff wouldn't put you in range of Aura's ability immediately.
Yeah, the aura player here really saying, "I want you to give me credits and I want to spend them this turn."
I think we see a pass from the Vel player. Now the Black Sun Kabbalist hits the field, but unfortunately for our Aura player, the Canto Bite security is not an underworld card, so cannot be given an experience. Vel's ability indeed being used, buffs
Was that a
the
claim?
Swoop Bike Marauder, gives the opponent a credit, initiative taken, Swoop Bike Marauder clears Canto Bite security and draws a card. And man, no other resource utilization for Aura that turn. That was not so great.
Yeah, the 5 resource turn, the only thing you were able to do was play a 2 cost 1/3 that did nothing
Right, that
else. That
didn't even
feels
give the
really bad.
experience. Now,
Hmm.
to be fair, the Aura player did also get 2 credits there, one from Vel's ability and one from the Canto Bite security on defense. So that does
Yeah.
mean we are potentially going to see some big plays this turn with 8 total resources available across the 6 resources and 2 credits.
But the problem is this is Vel's flip turn. Aura's isn't until next turn, and you still have more catching up to do.
Yes.
So that was a really bad time to have a turn where you couldn't do anything.
Yeah, let's see how this goes.
Trying to see what's going on here. Okay, so the blue -2/-2 event was played. Wow, nothing again.
Wow. With all those resources and 2 credits, Aura cannot get something to stick on the board. That's crazy.
It was able to kill one of the big units, but just man, we go back to resource utilization, and now it's been 4 resources out of a possible 13 to be utilized when you include the credits.
Yeah, Mylodon Rider ambushes in, clears the Kabbalist. Nothing on the board for Aura at this point. Staring down the Syndicate security, Velsartha with an experience, and that Mylodon Rider with only 1 damage on. This is really looking undesirable. I mean, that's 14 more
Mhm.
damage this turn, 15 more damage if Vel uses her ability again. Aura is really running out of time. Now, we do still have the ability for Aura to flip, which could be really big. I actually
It
think
can
it's
right now only
possible.
kill the Mylodon Rider.
I
So if
actually think
Aura
it's
doesn't,
possible that Mylodon Rider should not have ambushed there, just
I
to
agree
be out of
completely.
range of Aura's ability.
Yeah, I think you don't ambush there. And if Aura attacks into one of your units, you can respond by attacking with Vel to give it another experience.
Oh, look at this though. What a reversal of fortune. He's fired off the single reactor ignition and wiped the board +3 damage to the Vel player's base.
We did see that in the draft pool, and we're very curious if it was going to get utilized. And that was a great way to use. That explains the lack of resource. I said, I've got credits. I'm going to use them. I'm just going to wait until Vel flips and wipe the board.
Yeah, and
Still
now I
doesn't flip
believe it's the
Aura.
Kessel Hulk on the field. So that
Mhm.
is going to be a powerful unit, 5/7 Sentinel in space, well out of range of Aura's ability and ready to potentially start some new attacks. Seeing that there's no opportunity to get a kill with Aura Sing, it looks like he's going to decline to flip here and maybe try and save that for a situation where he can remove a unit.
Yeah, maybe try to get some damaged events in onto this Kessel Hulk so he can flip and kill it.
Yeah, could be. Still has a lot of resources and 2 credits. That single reactor ignition has really changed things on this board.
There's the Mandalorian back again.
Definitely a powerful card. The Kessel Hulk is going to fire away.
Still
Mandalorian
with 2
here,
credits.
provides a card draw, has a shield. More card draw equals more shields, but doesn't do anything to the space arena.
Yeah.
And a lot of resources on Vel's side of the board as well.
You still have a few turns before you absolutely have to answer this Kessel Hulk, but you do only have a few turns.
Right. Especially if we see some kind of upgrade.
Yeah. It looks like there's an
2 resources
interrogation
and a
droid in here.
credit
Yeah.
being used. Collateral damage fires away, 2 damage on the base and 2 damage on the Hulk, as you mentioned earlier, setting it up to be removed by Aura's flip. But the problem here is we could see Vel's ability used to go back out of range.
We don't see Vel's ability used.
Oh,
We
that
basically
is, I think, a big miss from our Vel player. That ability being used here would have been really important in my view. Doesn't see
Mhm.
it or wants to just get the Beach Patrol AT out first. And that does mean Aura can flip and clear the Kessel Hulk, which is otherwise a big problem.
Yeah. Now you have another big problem on the ground, but at least your Mando is still shielded.
Yeah, I personally think that as the Vel player, I would rather buff my Kessel Hulk out of range and then
Mhm.
just play the beach patrol ship an action or the beach patrol AT a turn later and then have 2 threats on the board instead of 1.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Um It felt kind of like Vel was saying, "All right, I want you to flip on this so that you can't kill my beach patrol with it, but I think you just keep your at that point 6 damage in space." But I don't know. It's an interesting inflect. If Aura comes back, that would be a big inflection point probably in the match, and as to why the comeback started.
Yeah, on the other hand, maybe there are some other cards in hand that our Vel player would like to develop, but it's like, "Oh, I need to get this aura ability used first."
Hmm.
The beach patrol swings, I believe the target is going to be the base here. A
Yeah,
powerful hit. One more swing
yeah.
from that beach patrol unit would end the game, but I'm not sure that's gonna happen. If nothing else, these 2 units could attack into it, and the Mandalorian would even remain on the field thanks to that shield token.
Hmm. And our other semifinal has finished. So Richard from the Bothan Network is now awaiting the winner of this match with the Boba deck that we saw in top 8.
Ooh, nice. Mandalorian swings in. Vel's ability used.
Yeah, so
Uh,
now Aura can't clear the AT-AT by itself because
right,
there's now
and that
4
makes a
health
lot
left.
of sense. So
Mhm.
this time the Vel player does use that ability to get out of range, even though we didn't see it last turn.
Yeah, we might have seen a did we see a pass?
But
Or a
might
it
have been,
must
I
have been
think
a
it was
claim.
initiative taken.
Yeah.
I think it was, I have to answer this. I can't answer it now this turn. I have to just take the initiative. And our Vel player taking the opportunity to develop substantial additional units. We have the Canto Bite security, and we also have the Cartel Heavy Fighter in space.
Yeah, looks like that's it. So we're gonna see Vel Green versus Boba Red, I believe, in the finals.
Yeah, the Mandalorian was unable to attack and clear the Beach Patrol AT-ACT because Canto Bite security was there as a sentinel to block the way. Tough
Yeah.
break for the Aura player with the game loss in round 1, but I thought the 2 games that we did see were good back and forth games, a lot of interesting
Mhm.
stuff. Really
Yeah,
cool
I was
gameplay
really
here.
impressed by the Aura leader. It was definitely one that I had kind of written off and not really tested, but we saw in both of those games the
Yeah,
power
we
that
saw
you
some
can
good
get from the
results.
ability to just activate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The, and that plan of, waiting for the, single reactor ignition to try and kinda turn the tide, that was pretty interesting too, to be honest with you. Didn't end up working out, but, there was some cool stuff that game.
Mhm. I don't
Alright,
think
well,
we're
we
gonna
will
have
have the
much time
finals
before the
soon.
finals. Yeah, it shouldn't be much time, so we'll probably go on a very quick break, but I would imagine they're gonna get for hanging out.
Welcome back to our coverage here of the Planetary Qualifier at Hobby Nights. This is a limited PQ. We are in the draft portion here in the top 8, and we are about to bring you the finals. I am tower number 9.
Final. I don't know Blake, but also congrats to him on making it to the final as well. It's always exciting to get to the actual finals, you know.
Yeah, and it's going to be Boba Fett versus Vel Sartha. Some decks that we've seen in this top 8. Let's see how they do as we move into that final. Vel resourcing 2 cards already. Richard there with the Boba deck, looking over his hand, thinking about it a bit more. Let's see what he does.
It looks like he's keeping
Blake
and just deciding what to resource.
Blake with Vel versus Richard with good success in limited last game, with Vel's ability boosting
Mhm.
the Beach Patrol AT-ACT out of range of Aura Singh's attack. But it does give your opponent credits, and sometimes that can really backfire. Scarif Lieutenant into BT1. Bit of an undesirable
Ooh.
lineup for the lieutenant there. BT1 could
Yeah,
either
tough
attack
spot
and
for
defeat it, or
Vel.
even attack to the base and potentially defeat it with the on attack ability if there's a lucky discard.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, the Bith Brute is solid here.
Yeah, Bith
Um,
Brute, very nice, lines up well into BT1. Now okay,
it's a
if
lot
you're the
riskier now.
Boba player, do you go for the luck out?
think it depends on the ratios. Like Richard knows how many red cards are in his deck. I don't. You've got to know at least roughly the odds of hitting here, and if the odds are under 65% or so, I probably don't go for it. It's hard to put an
Yeah,
exact number to it, but
oh, Leppy Lookout, okay. Leppy Lookout is going to swing
mhm.
base for 2 damage. Initiative taken.
Interesting for the claim here.
There's Vel's buff on that Bith Brute, putting the Leppy Lookout now out of range.
Now we've seen Richard in the top 8 have some good 5 drops. We know he has both Forlom and Zuckuss. So he
Mm,
could play something here to kill the Bith Brute now that he has the fifth resource.
yeah,
But
let's
we'll have to
see.
see. He's outside of the normal range. He needs something from hand because right now Blake's board state is lining up really nicely into Richards. So Richards going to have to pull something out here.
Yeah. Looks like the Leppy Lookout is going to swing. Oh, the Leppy Lookout
Ooh,
swings in only for Ezra to show up and heal.
yeah! Immediately negate the attack and put you back to square one, which is not what you want to see if you're Richard when you're trying to claw back into this.
No, especially because that Ezra Bridger is also a 4/5 raid 1. So your opponent
Oh
has
yeah.
just not only negated the damage you were doing, but also set up a powerful unit of their own. We do still have 4 resources and a credit, though. Let's see what our
Hmm.
Boba player can put together. All 4 resources and the credit being used.
Good start.
Oh, yeah, okay, okay. So this is gonna be a sentinel on both sides of the board now. I believe that is
Hmm.
the, what do they call it? Is it the Night Wind Assailants? I think that's right. Yeah, 5/5 sentinel.
Hmm. Yeah, and we see the XP here going to Ezra, probably signifying that both players are resigned that at some point these Sentinels are just going to crash into each other. Um, it is kind of relevant when exactly it happens because if Richard claims here, then Blake could go Bith Brute in and also the 2-1 kill the Leppy Lookout. He does hit the red card, so he might just kill the. Oh, he goes 3 into the Bith Brute. Interesting.
I don't understand.
It has Saboteur, so it doesn't have to swing into the 5/5.
Yeah, okay. So he's gonna try to soften up the Bith Brute, maybe clear it with the Leppy Lookout or something.
Yeah, because
Try and
now he
set up
can
a
clear it with.
scenario.
Yeah, he can clear it with the Leppy and
He does have a sentinel, the Night Wind Assailants, but they are not lining up well into Ezra, as you said. Initiative at least allows the Leppy Lookout to trade. If the Vel player had the initiative, we could see the Scarif Lieutenant potentially trade with the Lookout first and then buff Ezra
mhm.
again. Ezra takes out the assailants. A lot of
But I
resources
think
on both sides, but the
and
Vel
this is
player in
also
control of the board.
Richard's flip turn and not Vel's, so that he really needs to take control of the board this turn. He has a
Yeah,
few
because
ways
Vel
to
will show up
potentially do
soon.
that. Yeah, exactly. Like, he needs that Ezra gone, and he needs his Boba still here, I think. Ooh, that's not the best start. It doesn't clear anything off of the board.
Syndicate Security sees play once again. We've seen a lot of those guys in this
Yeah.
top cut here.
We see a target tagger in Richard's hand, but that doesn't feel the best.
Boba Fett now on the field.
Mhm.
Our Vel player pretty content to keep hitting base here. It looked like at first it was going to be a Vel trigger. Then it looked
Mhm.
like it was going to be the Scarif Lieutenant attacking. Now maybe that too is being reconsidered.
Well, if you put an XP onto Ezra, then it trades into Boba. But also, if you put an XP on the 4/6 grit unit, then your 2-1 is still available to clean up Boba if it goes after Ezra, and then you're left with a 5/7 grit. So I think both
Mm.
options are valid. The problem with attacking is it means you're not doing anything else this turn in terms of cleaning up or damaging further this Boba leader.
Yeah, interesting point. I do feel like Vel is quite ahead. It is going to be the attack targeting the base. 9 damage now on
Mhm.
Boba's base. Boba's still up and also still has, I believe, 2 resources and a credit. One other
Right.
reason to delay might be trying not to put your opponent onto any 4 resource plays they might have in hand.
Mhm. Yeah, and when Richard could use his target tagger here and just clear out the grit unit and leave his Boba, attacking
Yeah,
it for 6.
I could see that.
Then the target tagger is still threatening to kill Ezra next turn.
Target
Could
tagger.
also just go to base, but I think I like taking out the grit unit here. He does just go to base.
Yeah, target tagger buffs Boba. Boba is a bounty hunter. Swings, but it's just a swing to base. I think, yeah, so I guess if you did target tagger Boba into the security, the opponent could trade the Scarif Lieutenant and then buff Ezra, but then you could trade the target tagger
You
for
still
Ezra, so
trade the
actually that's
target tagger
fine.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you trade your 2 units for their 3, and instead it's just an Ezra for Boba straight trade. But now you have to deal with this 4/6 grit. It's 8 damage to 9. I don't mind taking out the 2/1 here before there's a rebel on board. But I
Yeah,
think
but it's
Richard seems to be right. I think Richard just wants this 4/3 space unit to get him over the finish line. So he's trying to
yeah,
pump in the damage.
going for a more aggressive style. This does mean that there's going to be a nice opportunity for. Oh, but look at that. The grit unit is also not attacking into enemy units. It's continuing to attack the base. The players are just racing at this point. It's not necessarily what I expected. We're going to we're going to see a hidden unit enter the field. So that is going to be a copy of the which one is that? It's the 4/4 hidden bounty hunter, I believe.
Yes. I forget what it's called, hidden something. But yeah, just vanilla 4/4 hidden unit or neutral 4/4 hidden unit.
Yeah, and that will be the I'm just looking up the seasoned tracker.
Oh, season tracker. There's another one that just has hidden in the name and has hidden on it.
Yeah, that's the hidden hunters, which is the same card
Yes.
except for 5 and in command.
Mhm.
So the season tracker does have hidden, so won't be able to be removed this turn by a normal attack. Could still be defeated by some other effect. Expendable mercenary on Vel's side of the board.
I think
Still
both
2
players just
resources.
going wide and thinking they're going to win the race.
Yeah. And I think it's the Vel player who has the distinct advantage right now in this race. But we'll see how that might change or not change. Vel is
Currently Boba
slightly
is
out of
1
range.
yeah, currently Boba is 1 damage short on board total and Vel is showing 2 action lethal.
Right. So Boba pretty behind unless we see some, I don't know, maybe there's another target tagger, maybe there's I don't know, commence the festivities, other things that could be attack pumps, but I'm not sure they would be enough here. Maybe a sentinel of some kind to slow things down.
Yeah.
Looks like Boba's planning to spend some resources. Let's see what it's on.
I think he's just still deciding if he is resourcing.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. It's just making a resource choice.
Mhm.
All right.
Either
Boba's
way, I
gotta
expect
do
this to be the
something.
last turn of the game.
Boba's gotta do something dramatic to not lose this turn.
Mhm.
Oh, it's the classic, the droid laser turret hitting the field to impede Vel's offense here.
Immediately killed
Oh,
though with the -2/-2.
perfect answer there
Yeah,
from
it looks like
Val.
1 on game
Val
2.
incapacitate, defeats that turret through the shield. Looks like Boba didn't have anything else to do there. That's going to be game. Our first game, a fairly quick win for Blake. Let's see if he can lock things up here as we prepare to move on to game 2.
Yeah, it feels like Richard was kind of close to coming back, but Blake just kept having the right answers and more big units that Richard couldn't easily deal with.
Yeah. So what do you think? I believe you had said that I believe that you'd said our Boba player Richard here was a teammate of yours. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
So seeing your teammate suffer a loss in this first game, what do you want to see going differently as we move on to game two?
I really want to see Richard deal 27 damage to Blake before Blake does that to Richard. But
Okay.
no,
Yep.
no. All seriousness, I think it's the more you see out of the deck, you've got to decide. You got to decide if you need to trade or not, and that decision is compounded by how Vel works, right? Like, oh, I didn't trade, then it also got an experience. So sometimes you intentionally don't trade because you need the credits. Sometimes you have to trade before they get the credit. So just making that decision, like I think maybe if Target Tagger goes into the sends Boba into the 4-6, does that mean that Blake is slowed down enough? Maybe it doesn't, and Richard still loses. Maybe he needed that turret, but the that's what I want to see is the decisions not get punished is what Richard wants to see. Either he gets a credit when he needs it, he doesn't when he doesn't. Those kind of things just lining up a little bit better, I think, are what he needs to win this game too.
Okay. Well, we're about to see whether or not that can indeed happen. Game two about to get underway. We see the first resources being placed there. Two resources. Once again, a quick, confident resource choice here from Blake.
Yeah, it either means his hand is really good, he knows exactly what he wants, or it's he knows the two worst cards of a bad hand. There there are two extremes, I
Yeah,
think, where you resource quickly.
multiple ways that shuffling it on up.
If he thought about it a lot, I'm curious. He might have had a turn one play, but it wasn't one that he loved. Um, just like for example, the 2/2 raid 2 unit, the red unit for 2 is a bounty hunter. So when you're on initiative with Boba and you get to lead with him, it's really nice to potentially start the credit train early where you can trade into their turn one play, get a credit, play a 4 drop and just kind of snowball from there. So maybe
Yeah,
he was looking for
absolutely.
a better turn one play even if he had one.
All right. Yeah, sometimes you feel like, hey, I have a turn one play? Yes, but is it good enough? I don't know. And I really need to bring my A game to this match. Let's see whether or not he can find it.
Yeah, and in both constructed and limited, I always tell people that how aggressively I mulligan varies based on how good or bad I think the matchup is. If I think the matchup is really bad, I'll aggressively is an amazing hand because I think my average hand just won't win anyway. So if I end up with an unplayable one, I'll lose just like if I had kept an average one.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start things off with the Rhodian Bondsman, and unfortunately,
Oh,
it does appear this was not the hand Richard wanted. He's going to miss his turn one
yeah,
play.
not ideal. Into a 4/4, so solid follow up, but missing your turn one play is never what you want to see.
Not at all. Rhodian Bondsman is just a 2/3. When defeated, each player gets a credit, I believe.
Yes.
Zeros shows up for Richards, and the Bith Brute makes another appearance for Blake.
Yeah, I would imagine we're just going to see these threes run into each other.
Yep. Seems like Richard has I think Richard crashing 000. Your opponent can just keep attacking you while you sit there not attacking because he has Sentinel and you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Target tagger just for the action if it oh no, that is a bounty hunter. Sorry. So it is for also the +2.
Yeah. So now it's what, 6 damage on that base?
Correct. Yeah. 6 damage to 0. Um Richard
The, sh-
technically with the larger units now, a 4/5 versus a 3/3 and a 2/3.
the shifty suspects on the field.
Yeah.
So that is a 4/5 on attack bases can't be healed for this phase.
Probably not relevant to this game, but it certainly can be. There's a decent amount of restore floating around. Um
The bondsman swings in. The shifty suspects are going to go ahead and remove the target tagger there.
Hmm.
And it is worth noting the shifty suspects are a bounty hunter, so that is going to be a credit created with Boba's ability. Once
Hmm.
again, Syndicate Security makes its way onto the field for Vel.
And this is also the flip turn for Boba, so could even get another credit here.
Yeah.
Could get two more credits. You kill the 2/3 with Boba, get two more credits. So Richard could play something really big here if he has it.
Yeah, it's a very good point. That Rhodian Bondsman, when defeated, does give a credit token to both players. So if Boba attacks and defeats the Bondsman, makes one credit from his own ability, one from the Bondsman's ability, and now we would be looking at a potential 8 cost card being played here by our Boba player. It looks like that's exactly what we're going to see. At least the credits. Now we'll have to see what he does with them.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons that specifically in Boba, I like to have at least one of the big 8 or 9 drop units, even if you're trying to be a more aggressive deck. You just have these games where the credits stack up, and you have the ability to play way above curve.
It's not going to be an 8 cost, but it's going to be two smaller units. First, we see the droid laser turret played with those credits, and then the normal resources are used for the Undercity hunting team,
Yeah,
which
I mean,
is
this is
then going to
exactly what
search for a bounty hunter.
yeah, this is exactly what Richard needed to get back into this game. It dropped down 2 units, cleared the board. There's the 4/6 there, but he cleared a lot of the board. Has a shielded sentinel in front of the only unit for the Vel flip turn. Um, so yeah, I think this is a very solid recovery from starting with no turn one play. And now that was Boba's spike, and now this is Vel's spike. I said, okay, you're leader deployed. Now it's my turn. Can Blake come back and kind of answer this cleanly on his leader flip turn?
Yeah, we will have to see. Okay, nice. Another very clean answer. Incapacitate once again defeats the droid laser turret through its shield. We saw this in the previous game, and
Hmm.
now we're seeing it again. Very nice response to that 2-1 shielded that would otherwise be a very annoying problem to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now it's interesting for Richard. If this 4/6 didn't have grit, he would probably just want to swing his 5/5 into it and then clear it out another way. But you really don't want
Yeah.
to give up a 9 attack at any point.
No, putting your opponent onto a swing for 9 to the base would be, I think, very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Instead, Boba is going to attack into the base for 4. The Syndicate security attacks and defeats the shifty suspects, getting 4 additional power with grit. Now we could see a trade, but I don't know that it would be all that good because if we trade here, Vel is still left to deploy, at which point she can attack and defeat Boba and be the only
Hmm.
one with a unit on the board.
Yeah. Oh, is he a target tagger? So I think Richard wants to try to wait out actions and see if he can leave 3 resources up for when Vel flips.
Target tagger for a 7 power swing into Vel would be very powerful here.
Oh, he's just going to base. He's saying,
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
waiting. I'm not going to take out your leader. I'm just pumping in the damage."
Target tagger is played, but before Vel flips, it's going to be a big swing with the Undercity hunting team. 7 damage to the base. Liberated Wookiee, 2 cost 2/4 vanilla, hits the field here for Vel. 3 resources still up for our Boba player, but
Ooh, the
now
3/3
the
Sentinel.
stalwart fleet trooper stands in the way.
And
Bit of a
that would have
speed
been the
bump.
big punish if Richard had tried to hold up the target tagger. Would have been the oh wow, and no other plays for Richard. So only spending 3 of his 6 resources. So Blake has done a really good job of coming back into this and showing off his power spike as well.
Yep, and there is Vel. Vel attacks, buffs herself, and with that is able to defeat the Undercity hunting team in 1 hit. And now we're looking at a much stronger board
Yeah.
over
Also,
on Blake's side of the table.
the Sentinel being a 4/4 is a huge deal as well because it trades back into the Boba and the target tagger can't attack it at all. So
Yep.
the experience there being huge for these breakpoints.
Yeah, that stalwart fleet trooper, not necessarily the most inspiring card by default, kind of a smaller speed bump type sentinel, but with the buff up to 4/4, could be a trade with Boba. Could, if Boba tries to find some other answer, could at least be buying time or forcing actions to be spent there. Overall, I think Vel's pretty ahead at this phase in the game.
Definitely agree. Richard did a really good job of coming back on his flip turn, but then Blake did an even better job of answering that with his own flip. It's a game you often see with a 5 cost leader versus a 6 cost. Is that the 5 cost gets really far ahead, and then the 6 cost has to claw back on their turn, and it's how well they can do that. And Blake did it incredibly well. 4 units out, including one that attacks for 8, and his leader hidden behind a 4/4 Sentinel. Like there's a massive board state here that Richard has to fight through. He's got a lot of work to do.
Oh, okay. Commence the festivities. The target tagger, or maybe Boba, we could see an attack here with Saboteur, maybe trading for that syndicate security or for Vel.
I'm not even sure what you want to kill here most. I think it's I think it's not this I think it's not the Sentinel, but I'm not even sure of that because now the Sentinel can just kill Boba for free. So
Right.
you could have even with the Saboteur potentially
Oh, but the
killed
Sentinel's
Boba.
not going for Boba. The Sentinel's going for the base. We're up to 12 damage now on Boba's base. There was a credit token made from that play, though.
Hmm. It's interesting there to go base because it's not a trade this way. I think it's just saying I have so much damage that you have to trade into me, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. As you say, the stalwart fleet trooper could have attacked and defeated Boba while remaining on the field, since Boba has an additional 1 power when attacking only thanks to raid 1. But, I think our Vel player is thinking, hey, I'm the aggressor now. I'm just going to try and push damage to base and close things out. We'll see how it goes for him. Credit token being spent. Another commence the festivities. And Boba trades for Vel, which I believe makes the credit right back.
Yes. This is a very festive game. They have been commenced multiple times now. So yeah, that was well played by Richard, getting the 2 credits back. And now I think they're having the it's the old discussion of it says when it completes an attack, but it goes back to the rules change that they made recently, where um, the only reason to not get the credit is if the card would have to say when it completes an attack and survives. So the rules actually changed from the way they were in I believe sets. It either changed this set or last set, but fairly recently to where to my understanding of the rules, Richard should get a credit here, but he would not have 3 sets ago.
Yes, I believe that's accurate. All right.
It looks like they may be discussing that now.
Discussing the ruling here.
Hmm. So while we're waiting for that, both players still have all their resources up. I think this game is very much still hanging in the balance. Blake is still ahead, but not by as much. I think Richard's running out of cards though. He did spend on commence the fest 2 cards on commence the festivities to help even up this board state. So you've got to imagine Blake has more cards in hand to try to push his advantage.
Yeah, commence the festivities was nice here, but it is card disadvantage. Oh, take a look at that. It's the berserkers on the field here. So
Yeah.
this is, one of those end gamey sorts of units that you throw out there when you want to get a lot of damage going fast. It is the
Yeah.
Son Tool Berserkers, an 8/5 overwhelm.
Yeah, and if he attacks first action, he gets to kill and not die back, which is nice. If
Yeah.
he waits, Vel
And
could potentially give another experience to the Sentinel.
can deal a big chunk of damage to the base. And indeed, we see
Yeah.
those berserkers overwhelming the stalwart fleet trooper. Takes 4 damage back, but gets 4 damage through with that big overwhelm swing.
Hmm.
The swoop bike marauder hits Boba's
And
base for
draws a
4,
card.
drawing a card.
Ooh, is he a Blade Wing in hand for Vel? They've already used the base, but if Richard tries to play something else big here, it could just get bounced for 8, which at the
Yeah.
late stage of the game is just not the end of the world.
Yeah, and I think this Wookiee would happily trade for those berserkers. Oh, look at that. Yeah, he cannot take the
Mhm.
turret, cannot take the blade wing. Now the turret hits the field.
Yeah.
Boba Fett's turret was answered very cleanly by incapacitate. Not at all clear to me that Boba will have a clean answer of his own to Vel's turret.
Mhm. Just love 4 resources up. Used his base to play the hold for questioning, which makes you assume that something else is coming.
Yeah, good point. If something else were not coming, he could have just spent the aspect penalty.
Mhm.
One resource.
Oh, that's
What
a
was
rock.
that?
Take it with his shield. That may have been
That yeah.
sideboarded
Hey,
in
that's
after
big.
seeing the turret. Mhm.
Yeah, knock off that shield. That's big. The Black Sun Kabbalist arrives and buffs the Berserker squad there. The problem with this is the Berserker can still be easily removed, but the
Yeah, the
advantage is that
buff
the
isn't.
Kabbalist could then trade for the turret. Looks like we're now looking at 18 damage on Boba's base. He needs to slow things down here somehow. His board is much weaker. He's potentially going to take 6 more damage this turn.
Throwing the Sentinel in the way, I like that. He knows that there's the Blade Wing there potentially for 8, but I think you just don't really have a choice, right? Like, you just gotta throw your Sentinel out there.
Yeah, it's nice. You just gotta slam it. Kind of a tough one. You know, oh, yep, just gets bounced as predicted.
So that this
BT
means
one
that the Blade Wing is gonna be lethal first action next turn. So it looks like if Blake just attacks base with everything and Richard claims, he's gonna have to deal with lethal in both arenas. Don't know
seems
that
like a
there's a great way to do that.
bit of a checkmate to me, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
15, 22 damage. Vel's ability used, another 3 damage, 25. So yeah, lethal in both arenas. First action has to somehow prevent all 3 of these units. Can't do it. There's the handshake and a very solid win there for Blake in this top cut draft.
Yeah,
Blake
absolutely. We
will
saw him play
win the
really
Hobby
well.
Knights Planetary Qualifier.
Yeah, huge congrats to Blake. Played really well. We saw him multiple times throughout this top cut. Played really well with his Vel deck. Yeah, I mean, showed the power of the leader. We got to see the power of a lot of leaders, I think, in this set, or in this top cut specifically, which was really nice to see the variety of leaders doing
Yeah,
well.
that aura that we had maybe been a little skeptical of had some good moves.
Hmm. Yeah,
Ultimately,
Aura,
though,
Boba,
Vel
Vel.
Spartha takes it down.
Yeah, and I think if you ask people ahead of time, what leader do you think is going to win? Probably Aura. And me, if you asked what leader would also be in the top 2, probably would have said Boba. I think those are the 2 kind of front runners, but they're by no means the only good and playable leaders. Richard actually got to the top 8 playing Tobias in sealed.
Yeah. So you think Vel and Boba, the heavy hitters in this format, but not as advantaged as the strongest leaders in some other formats. Would that be accurate?
Exactly. Yeah, I would say Vel. I hesitate to say Vel is in S tier by herself. I do think she's a big
There are some
friendly.
situations where it ends up feeling like a very double-edged sword, where it's like, oh, I just
Mhm.
impact. I think we saw one where it's like, oh, I gave out this experience, but I also gave my opponent the credit, and now they can play the circuit challenger and ambush me. And
Exactly.
some definite tough spots for that ability where you don't really know what your opponent can do with it, and sometimes you might get blown out if you use it recklessly.
Hmm.
Well, that was a nice day of Star Wars Unlimited here at Hobby Night. I think we had some
Hmm.
some interesting games in limited, some interesting games both sealed and draft here in a lawless time. And I for one, really enjoy seeing these limited events in competitive play. In that
Absolutely.
season zero that we had when the things were still getting underway, there were not any limited competitive events. Yes, there would be limited
Hmm.
tournaments run by stores and stuff. But now that it's a format for some of the higher tier events, I'm excited to see that. I think it's a good sign for the game, and I look forward to the Galactic Championships format that incorporates both aspects in one event.
100% agree. I was very excited when they said they were basically kind of transitioning limited into being a competitive event. I think it's huge for a game. I think you need a good limited scene in a game, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does a lot for the game, especially if you're in a time when there's a bad constructed meta. I think the current constructed meta is cool, but if you don't
Mhm.
like the constructed meta, having there be a strong limited scene is very positive for a game as a whole, I believe.
Yeah, 100% agree. Um, and yeah, so that is going to wrap up our coverage of the Planetary Qualifier out here in Wisconsin. Huge shout out to Late Night Gaming and Rebel Trader, all the guys, all the work behind the scenes at the store to help put this on. Um, our guest commentators from the Colorado Cantina crew, other late night gaming guys, the legendary Tower Number Nine himself, and myself, Jeff Creasy from the Bottom Network. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and tune in tomorrow for an Eternal PQ.
Yeah, I will. I think I'll be casting at least some of that. And are you going to be there as well, Jeff?
I am gonna play it by ear. I think I will be in there for probably a couple of rounds.
Cool. Well, yeah, if you liked watching some SWU today, stay tuned for some more SWU coming up tomorrow as we are well into the competitive season and there's a lot of PQs going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Thanks to y'all for watching. Tune in tomorrow if you want to see some more SWU, like we just said.